Funding for the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is made possible through generous community support. Streetcars rolling down the tracks and Iberia Bank both are part of today's New Orleans landscape. We believe in making our community better by giving back through charitable, educational, and cultural efforts that enhance our city, such as this broadcast on WYES. The Gustav Westfeldt Mcelhenney Family Foundation supports the renewal of New Orleans and the ongoing process of transforming our city's schools. Rex organization volunteers and the Pro Bono Publico Foundation are helping assure that every child in New Orleans can attend an excellent school. Brennan's Restaurant offers Chef Slade Rushing's modern interpretations of classic Creole cuisine served in Brennan's elegant dining rooms, Roost Bar, and Courtyard. Brennan's, over 70 years in the French Quarter. 417 Royal Street. Fidelity Bank. As New Orleans as king cake, parades, beads, doubloons, and the families that get together to celebrate them all. Serving this community since 1908. Hail Rex, hail Comus, happy Mardi Gras. Support is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of legal services to a wide range of local, regional, national, and international client base. Online at joneswalker.com. The Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is also sponsored by the Riley Foods Company and French Market Cold Brew Coffee, New Orleans' own soul-fueled coffee concentrate.
Well, I got introduced to Hancock Whitney, and they have helped us double in the size that we are by giving us the financial tools to make that growth happen.
The New Orleans Tourism Marketing Corporation wishes visitors and citizens a happy Mardi Gras from the city where visitors leave with a story, not just a souvenir. New Orleans visitor information is available at neworleans.com. Support comes from Emmett Dupas, Wealth Management Advisor at Northwestern Mutual, specializing in finding solutions to help companies and their employees reach their financial goals.
Adler's, honored to be part of New Orleans traditions since 1898.
Support comes from Baker Donaldson, lawyers and advisors proud to serve the business community and support local programming. Shaft McCall, proud to celebrate Carnival and honor the monarchs of Mardi Gras and the tradition of service before self. Also brought to you by Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. Any challenge, any risk, anywhere in the world. Home Care Solutions, compassionate in-home elder care to extend your loved one's independence. Poydras Home, independent living, assisted living, and nursing care in the heart of Uptown since 1817. Additional support by Bellwether Technology. And by Richard Certified Public Accountants, richardcpas.com. Additional funding is provided by the law firm of Adams and Reese and Jonathan C. McCall. Live from the Sheraton Hotel and the New Orleans Marriott Hotel on historic Canal Street bordering the French Quarter, WYES presents the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus. And now, here is Peggy Scott Laborde.
Good evening, I'm Peggy Scott Laborde. Welcome to the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and the mystic crew of Comus. We'll look back at Mardi Gras 50 and 100 years ago. Plus, we'll visit with Carnival royalty, past and present. The King of Carnival has already had a busy day. Let's see what he's up to the rest of the year. Little did the 2019 King of Carnival know what was ahead when he walked into a meeting last fall.
I showed up at this person's office and he was in the conference room with another person who also is on the nonprofit board, and he said, before we start the meeting, I've left a spreadsheet that we need in my office in the other room. Let me go get it and bring it back so we can start our conversation. And so I made small talk with the one gentleman that remained, and then the door opened and 5 members of what then was obviously the Rex Executive Committee walked into the room, and I knew at that moment that my life had just changed. It was instantaneous.
Robert S. Bowe, president and CEO of Bowe Brothers Construction Company, has been a Rex member for 35 years. Earlier, he served as a Duke. In 1979, a momentous year.
As we approached Mardi Gras, the police were on strike, and the decision was made at that late in that season to not have a parade that year. So the organization had a luncheon, I think, that day in place of parading, but it was a very different Mardi Gras than the one we're going to have this year.
In 1998, Bowe's father, Robert H. Bowe, reigned as Rex.
He was a pretty low-key guy, but I've never seen him as excited about anything he did as he was with this. And honestly, it carried on for the rest of his life, because I think there was a camaraderie among past kings that was very noticeable as the years went on. It was something that each year he would really look forward to Mardi Gras because of that connection.
This year's Rex leads a staff of almost 900, and the family-owned business has passed the century mark.
Well, Bowe Brothers has had a tradition of being very philanthropically oriented, and so we've always had that bent. But for Ann and me, our life changed in 2009. Our son Michael passed away. He had cystic fibrosis, but as we thought about what we might do to bring some meaning to Michael's life and to remember him, we turned our attention to philanthropy and trying to help organizations in the community that serve children and families.
St. Michael's Special School, which educates children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, is among the worthy causes the monarch is dedicated to.
They had a capital program where they were trying to build a new chapel, and our gift in Michael's memory will be the lead gift for that new chapel. So we've gotten to know the administrators and some of the parents there, and it's been really great to see the wonderful work they do for so many children who have special needs, and New Orleans doesn't have a lot of options for them.
His Majesty is also a strong supporter of the Good Shepherd School, which provides paid tuition for at-risk children. A devotion to good works aligns with the spirit of the Rex organization.
I'm so proud of what Rex does for the community through the Pro Bono Publico Foundation and other good works. And so to be asked to be the representative of that group, as proud as I am of what they do, is truly an honor. So I can't wait, I'm excited. It's an experience that I've felt as a rider in the Rex Parade, but it'll be nothing like what it's going to be like to be on the first float.
And welcome again to our live broadcast of the 2019 Rex Ball. Joining me this evening are Errol Laborde, editor of New Orleans Magazine and author of the book Mardi Gras, Chronicles of the New Orleans Carnival, and Dr. Stephen Hales, retired pediatrician and archivist for the Rex organization and author of Rex, an illustrated history of the School of Design. Welcome, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great to see you all, of course. And you know, viewers can watch us, of course, at WYES On Demand on YouTube and at WYES.org. We also have our weekly programs such as Stepping Out and Informed Sources, as well as over 200 New Orleans history vignettes. They're all on demand online. We want to thank our friends at Louisiana Public Broadcasting because we are being seen statewide on their LPB3 channel, which of course means viewers in Shreveport, Baton Rouge, and Alexandria are among the many cities that you can watch tonight. But let's talk about yesterday. What a kickoff. Lundi Gras, Errol. We have footage which we'll be seeing, but once again at Riverwalk, and so much to do with Rex himself arriving by train.
A very impressive event as always. Rex arrived. I think this is one of the great moments of the Carnival season because it brings together Rex, it brings together the civil authority with the mayor, it brings together Zulu, and they were all together on one stage visiting Rex in Rex's house.
And here's, yeah, absolutely, and Rex's arrival next to Robert S. Bowe from the train,
He's
and
getting
quite
off
a
the
procession.
train. He's got off the train. He has the Coast Guard color guard, and now he's getting on the stage. And Rex always reads a proclamation asking that the next day be a free holiday.
Well, let's take a listen. There was plenty going on yesterday.
And we have a show for you
Mayor
tonight.
LaToya Cantrell, of course.
It is now time for me to introduce to you
Captain.
Rex 2019, a man who deserves this honor more than most, who's very giving and charitable, Mr. Robert Sandoz Bowe.
Thank you, Captain. It's great to be back in the capital city of Mardi Gras, New Orleans, Louisiana. I would like to read a proclamation, please. Mayor, with joy, I return to our capital city to join with my loyal subjects in these carnival celebrations. To assure the fullest degree of pleasure for all, I do hereby ordain and decree the following, that during the great celebration, all commercial endeavors be suspended throughout the realm, so that pleasure may rule both day and night.
Good evening, everyone. This is a
King
great
of Zulu,
opportunity to be able to
Mr. Rainey.
greet people of New Orleans on this cold Mardi Gras, Mardi Gras, I should say.
I'd like to present you with a proclamation and our deep appreciation for all you do for Mardi Gras. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, well, one thing I can tell you, we have no problem with, at all, with the pleasure may rule both day and night. That sounds good. All right, that's okay. Because Rex, and the Rex that I know, who contributes countlessly to the city of New Orleans day and night, towards infrastructure, I might add. Now that's a little appealing to me now, Rex. So with that, we can do this. We concur. Yes. We will allow Rex to rule. Please accept the key to the city, Your Honor, on behalf of the citizens of New Orleans, including...
She did.
New
She
Orleans.
was so much fun. She was so enjoying herself, too.
Hail Rex!
Followed by fireworks, and of course, Errol, you were the MC, the man in the hat. Things went very well yesterday, didn't they?
And you know, that's the first time that there were fireworks in Mardi Gras with Lundi Gras. You'd think that there have always been fireworks from the beginning. But that moment right there, after you have Rex and Zulu and the mayor together and they put a bunch together, all the unity right there, and then it deserves a big fireworks show, and the crowd is just so happy. It's a good,
and the
it's a
weather
good- it's a good
complied,
moment.
too. And then, of course, this morning, very early this morning at the Royal Run, where Rex and his queen have great fun at Audubon Park, and they take off. And this is a very nice tradition that was first started by Boatner Riley, wasn't it?
Now, Boatner Riley, really a towering figure in recent Rex history. His cannon still sounds to begin the Royal Run. The Queen always wins. That's another deep tradition.
And we heard, we have our reporter there, Justin Winston, who reported that Rex himself fired the cannon for the starting gun, which you think may have given it advantage, except by law, the Queen is always the winner, no matter what place she finishes in.
And they give away free T-shirts, don't they?
They do indeed.
The green T-shirts in the background.
Well, I would trust an engineer to fire a cannon. I think Robert Bowe is a uniquely qualified Rex.
Absolutely. There you go.
But Steve, as a former Rex, how did you feel about having to go to Audubon Park at 7 o'clock in the morning to run?
It's a long, happy blur that day, Earl. I think I remember it, but I'm not entirely sure. But people, there's such a joy in this city on Mardi Gras, even at 7 in the morning. So it's a happy time.
And, of course, the parade, which
Oh,
I know you work year-round on.
Yes, the Visions of the Sun. I mean, this is a wonderful theme and beautiful, beautiful parade, and I hope that there would be sunshine on it, because The parade goers deserve to see the beautiful colors and the workmanship and the artistry that goes into that.
Beautiful Queen, Fred.
Rex, Robert Bowe saluting his court. It was a cold and windy reviewing stand at the Intercontinental today.
Hail Queen Brett.
Robert was gracious to his queen, gracious to his wife Anne, and also passed the bouquet up to his mother, the wife of Bob Bowe of past Rex.
And the Queen toasted, of course,
Yes, indeed.
her king.
You see a lot of maids holding onto their hats. It was a gusty morning, but a very happy one. The Pages managed to stay with this hour after hour with His Majesty's bandwagon.
And the Noka band, I understand, played
Indeed,
on the
this is
bandwagon for the
a
first
Noka
time.
band, first time that band has performed, and they were a knockout hit.
And
the
St.
St.
Og.
Og band, famous world round, really. And we're always happy when they're part of it. The oldest symbol of Carnival, the Buffgraf, very popular float. Many past Rexes ride on that float in their chef's costumes. An iconic image of Carnival for sure.
But I know your baby was this year's theme, Visions of the Sun.
Visions of the Sun. Henri Schindler, our artistic director, worked with current artists to put these designs together. A full year building them out. Beautiful, beautiful flowers, sculpture, painting. This is such a unique art form. Here we have 20 unique rolling works of art we prepare each year, let them be viewed just for a few hours, then they go away. The Midnight Sun, another reference to the passage of the sun in the sky in the northern territories where it never sets.
Unfortunately, a few weeks back, though, something pretty disastrous happened on 2525 St. Charles Avenue.
Oh, goodness sakes. That captured the city in many, many ways. 2525 St. Charles, the Downman Montgomery Cock House. So much history is played out there. We focused on the Rex history, but really this has been an important home for the city. So many fundraisers, weddings, celebrations have been there, but I think the iconic moment, certainly Robert Downman started in 1907. He bought the home in 1906. Passed over to salute his friends, toasted them, that loving cup, and that toast has been there ever since.
Which still hasn't been retrieved, has it?
I don't believe it has. I think this is a devastating fire. We're so grateful for the first responders. The firemen were heroic. The others who attended were grateful the family wasn't injured. A huge outpouring of love and support for the Montgomery family.
The Grace family.
And we have, even today, beautiful tribute as the parade passed. I think the sentiment there was heartfelt. A loving cup was produced, and Rex did toast.
I'm so glad.
One thing I learned for all the names that house has, Cock, Montgomery, Grace, a lot of people know it as the Rex House.
They call it the Rex House.
And I think that's there's just so much Rex history there for sure.
And we understand that there are plans to rebuild, so
that's what I'm told, and I think they'll take some time to do that. But as our captain said the day after that tragic fire, you can burn down a house, but you can't burn down history, traditions, relationships, friendships. So much support for the Graces and other extended members of that family.
Absolutely. And for such an historic event, it is only fitting that we include a few historic questions to test your knowledge of Carnival history. We'll have 3 questions tonight during tonight's performance, our broadcast, of course, and we have some wonderful prizes associated with them, too. But the viewers have to submit all 3 correct answers. Here are our prizes and the first quiz question.
Our Carnival quiz prizes include a one-night stay for 2 at the Inn at Homer's House, which includes a guided tour of the mansion and a plantation breakfast for 2, a $350 value. The inn is located on the grounds of Homer's House Plantation and Gardens in Burnside, Louisiana, along the River Road. A 2019 Rex Parade Bulletin, depicting this year's Rex Parade with its theme Visions of the Sun, illustrated by Manuel Ponce. A 2019 Rex Proclamation. This year's proclamation is by Alex Beard. It depicts beautiful images of deities associated with the sun in ancient cultures, shown above the outline of a New Orleans neighborhood. A copy of Mardi Gras, Chronicles of the New Orleans Carnival, by Errol Laborde and published by Pelican. A copy of the book New Orleans Mardi Gras Moments by Judy Bottoni and me, also published by Pelican. And a DVD of tonight's program. And now, our first Carnival quiz question. On which Rex signature float are the maskers always dressed like butchers? We'll tell you where to send your answers later in our broadcast.
You know, you're hearing beautiful music in the background, and this is a first for the Rex Ball because they're members of the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra, correct?
We're so delighted they're here, and this is magnificent music. This is, I think, a throwback to the very early days of Carnival when orchestral music probably would have been very much a part of the Rex Ball, but you're going to hear music that is familiar in many ways, but delivered in a whole new way. The Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra is a local treasure.
Absolutely, and David Torrance is the conductor tonight, and they'll go away for a few minutes because in less than 10 minutes, we'll be hearing from, of course, the Marine Reserve Band. So lots of music tonight, but we have some great show and tell. First of all, let us show you the Royal Edict. The Royal Edict, tell us about this one, Stephen.
Yes, edicts. In the early days of Carnival, Rex commanded people to come to New Orleans to celebrate Mardi Gras here, and they obeyed him and they came, and we do that today. These don't go out to railway stations, but they go out over the internet and are delivered to tourism offices all around the world. This has become an anchor of our local tourism industry, and Rex founders really had this in mind as they invented the King of Carnival and began to command people to come.
And we also have the Bulletin.
The Bulletin, again, bringing back an old favorite tradition and a beautiful art form. But we wouldn't know about early Rex parades if we didn't have bulletins with the float designs. Yes. Matthew Hales creates this with images of the designs by Manuel Ponce, beautiful corner art illuminating the theme Visions of the Sun. This is a way that we can remember many, many years from now the beauty of Rex processions.
And the proclamation,
Proclamation, indeed. Each year an art print is produced. This year's by Alex Beard, a wonderful local artist who lives both here and in Africa. A beautiful scene of a New Orleans a village, a neighborhood, the sun rising over that, and many designs from the Rex Parade, Visions of the Sun. And of course, you'll always see by the King himself, Rex proclaims Mardi Gras.
Absolutely. And we are so excited because, you know, for a New Orleans Carnival crew that's almost 150 years old, it's no surprise that there would be scrolls, gowns, and lovely memorabilia still with us, still around. Producer Catherine Ford paid a visit to Rex's Royal Archive.
If these walls could speak, you would hear the whispers of kings and queens of Carnival's past.
This is called the King's Room, and in this room we have portraits of every king of Carnival going back to Louis Solomon in 1872 through Poco Sloss, who was Rex last year in 2018.
With every portrait hung, every memoir preserved here at the Rex Den, the Rex organization pursues a mission to tell their story to generations to come.
This scepter was carried by Dorothy Wilmot when she was Queen of Carnival in 1913. This came into our collection because her granddaughters who lived in Cleveland reached out to us and were curious about the crown and scepter they'd played with in her grandmother's attic when they'd go to visit. Not long after that, I received a nice message that they thought it was time for their grandmother's jewels to come home. So this beautiful crown and scepter and necklace and all the other court jewelry is really one of the highlights of our collection here at the Den. Mardi Gras has grown in so many directions since Comus and Rex in the 19th century. Dozens of parades now, lots of new traditions, but this is the anchor. This is where it began, and this is a story that Rex can tell and is glad to tell, and we can do it very well in these rooms. When we came back to the Den after Katrina, we found this scepter intact. It had floated up on its wooden box and landed on a table and preserved and carries with it not only tradition but some recent history. This is the oldest document we have in our collection. This was donated to us about a year ago by Mrs. Lynn Tomlinson, who was the great-granddaughter of Rex's first poet laureate, who was Mary Ashley Townsend, a very well-known poet and writer. It's dated the 11th of February, 1873. Rex was founded in 1872.
Steps away from the dazzle and glitter, the Rex story continues.
A gift that every King of Carnival is given by the Rex organization is a large scrapbook.
It is told both page by page
and the program from his ball.
And reel by reel.
This is a very special part of our Rex collection and our archives. The John G. Corbel video archives are mostly the work of John Corbel, who passed away last year, was our longtime videographer. John's just been a very important part of the Rex organization and accumulating, documenting its history for many, many decades. And when I walk into this collection, I'll always think of him, really an important contributor to what Rex stands for. So these are the archives. All of the different formats you can imagine going back decades, from film canisters to old formats of tape. It's all here, and this is John's work.
From decades of archives to treasured trinkets and family heirlooms, it takes many hands to produce a collection like this, and trusted hands to keep it all in good care.
150 years produces a lot of interesting documents, a lot of interesting stories, a lot of interesting connections, a lot of interesting art. To be able to collect some of that here and to display it is part of Rex's mission. And as a historian, as a lover of things that are old and fascinating, being able to work with these artifacts has really been a joy.
And now let's take a moment to thank those who made tonight's broadcast possible.
Funding for the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is made possible through generous community support. Streetcars rolling down the tracks and Iberia Bank both are part of today's New Orleans landscape. We believe in making our community better by giving back through charitable, educational, and cultural efforts that enhance our city, such as this broadcast on WYES. The Gustav Westfeldt Mcelhenney Family Foundation supports the renewal of New Orleans and the ongoing process of transforming our city's schools. Rex organization volunteers and the Pro Bono Publico Foundation are helping assure that every child in New Orleans can attend an excellent school. Brennan's Restaurant offers Chef Slade Rushing's modern interpretations of classic Creole cuisine served in Brennan's elegant dining rooms, roost bar, and courtyard. Brennan's, over 70 years in the French Quarter. 417 Royal Street. Fidelity Bank, as New Orleans as king cake, parades, beads, doubloons, and the families that get together to celebrate them all. Serving 1908. Hail Rex, hail Comus, happy Mardi Gras. Support is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of legal services to a wide range of local, regional, national, and international client base. Online at joneswalker.com.
Well, I got introduced to Hancock Whitney, and they have helped us double in the size that we are by giving us the financial tools to make that growth happen.
Support comes from Emmett Dupas, Wealth Management Advisor at Northwestern Mutual, specializing in finding solutions to help companies and their employees reach their financial goals.
Adler's, honored to be part of New Orleans traditions since 1898.
Support comes from Baker Donaldson, lawyers and advisors proud to serve the business community and support local programming. Chaff McCall, proud to celebrate Carnival and honor the monarchs of Mardi Gras and the tradition of service before self. Also brought to you by Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. Any challenge, any risk, anywhere in the world. Home Care Solutions, compassionate in-home elder care to extend your loved one's independence. Poydras Home, independent living, assisted living, and nursing care in the heart of Uptown since 1817. Additional support by Bellwether Technology.
And we are almost almost moments away from the beginning of the ball, but we certainly want to introduce you to our very special guest who'll be with us for a while, Will French. And Will works with Dr. Hales on preserving and researching the Rex organization's history and historical artifacts.
The Rex organization is
Thanks, Peggy. Thanks for having me. This is very exciting.
Absolutely. And we're hearing Mark Romick, who is clearing the floor.
This evening, we are honored by the presence of Marine Forces Reserve Band, led on the march by Drum Major Staff Sergeant Keith Algio from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Established in 1978, the Marine Forces Reserve Band is comprised of 51 active duty men and women that represent the command of Marine Forces Reserve in their home city of New Orleans. They travel the United States of America, performing for millions of people each year, supporting military ceremonies as well as hundreds of public events in support of Marine Corps recruiting command efforts and the National Community Relations Campaign. Most recently, they performed their annual concert production benefiting Toys for Tots in the Sanger Theater right here in New Orleans, as well as for numerous coronation balls throughout the 2019 Carnival season. We saw them at some balls during the season, didn't we, Aaron?
They're very, very good. I mean, they're a prize group to have at anyone's ball.
Now taking his position is the officer in charge, Chief Warrant Officer 2, Demarius Jackson from Aiken, South Carolina. The band's first selection is an all-American march and belongs to a category known as circus marches, screamers, or barnstormers. Its fast tempo and pounding rhythms call to mind the thundering hooves of circus animals running through their arenas. As the title alludes, this piece alternates between violent storms and periods of happy sunshine. Ladies and gentlemen, the band presents In Storm and Sunshine. Written by Charles Mitchell and former Louisiana Governor Jimmy Davis, and performed by Governor Davis, the next selection this evening is You Are My Sunshine. Tonight, however, the band will perform it with a modern New Orleans brass band feel. Arranged by the band's own corporate Michael Choi, please enjoy You Are My Sunshine.
Chief Warrant Officer Jackson has performed with many artists.
The featured
including
soloists
Aaron
were
Neville.
Corporals Christian Rosario from Miami, Florida, and Joey De La Garza from McAllen, Texas.
But nonetheless, interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, no Marine Band performance would be complete without the playing of our national march, John Philip Sousa's immortal, The Stars and Stripes Forever. The piccolo soloist this evening was Sergeant Maria Dewey from White Point, New York.
Certainly do.
All present, please rise for the presentation of colors and join in the singing of our national anthem.
We'll be visiting with Chief Warrant Officer Jackson a little later in our program.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. The band's final selection is the Armed Forces Medley in honor of all military members who have served this great nation. If you have ever served, are currently serving, or are the family member of a service member, we ask that you please stand and be recognized when you hear your service song. United States Army. The United States Navy. The United States Coast Guard. the United States Air Force. United States Marine Corps.
Rex has long had a strong military presence throughout its history, hasn't it, Eric?
You know, it's amazing. All the times I hear those, all of those songs are great songs. They always make you want to.
There.
They make you want to get out in there and march, and they do really nice compositions.
The Rex organization asks that you join together in another warm round of applause.
The Marine Corps band always does such a great job. This year I think it's even more special because our new captain was a Marine Corps attack helicopter pilot. So I think maybe they performed just a little bit extra tonight.
Boy, does that resonate, huh? So impressive.
And he received a presidential citation for his efforts.
Wow.
So he's known combat not only as the captain faces, but in reality in the military.
We are waiting the trumpeters that will signal that Rex is in the building. That whistle's very important to kick off our ball. Loving the majesty of the purple, green, and gold lieutenants.
Now, something really different is about to happen. Everybody pay attention to what's going to happen in the next few minutes. I think it's very exciting.
Our heralds off to the left. Here we go. Barney Floyd on the left and Dr. Todd Engelhardt. And both of them have been Rex heralds for many years. Dr. Engelhardt is a thoracic and cardiac surgeon in Metairie and affiliated with East Jefferson Hospital. And Barney Floyd is a popular musician in New Orleans, a Grammy nominee and winner. And he plays on a regular basis the brunch at Commander's Palace.
And they were both at Lindy Grow last night to announce Rex arrival.
And he was in the circus for 12 years as a trumpeter.
Was he really?
Yeah, here you go.
All right.
We're hearing for the first time ever, If Ever I Cease to Love, performed by the symphony.
It's beautiful.
By part of the symphonies. 16 musicians. And I heard this at rehearsal. I wanted to cry. It's so beautiful.
And Rex and his queen have entered the building here. Mr. Robert S. Bowe and Christina Britt Johnson. Hail Rex. And Mr. Bowe is the president and CEO of Bowe Brothers Construction since 1994, having started his career in the family business as a project manager in 1981. And Miss Johnson is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Eric Lee Johnson. And she is presently a junior at Vanderbilt and on the dean's list, and very involved civically, which you'll learn a little bit more about later. But her grandmother was Edna Lee Johnson, and her step-grandmother was Dolly Ann Sushon Johnson, who was the Queen of Carnival in 1949. And her grandfather, Eric Johnson, reigned as Rex in 1991. The lineage is very long, isn't it?
It sure is. She got into a little bit of trouble. I don't know if you know this, but she was doing a semester abroad in New Zealand, and she decided to go bungee jumping. And she then reported it back to her dad, who said, "Oh my gosh, you cannot do that. Mardi Gras is at risk." She said, "Well, then I'm going to cancel my plans to go skydiving."
Okay.
So she's an adventurous sort.
Yes, indeed.
Glad that she made it through.
And we all recall, of course, in 1998 that Mr. Bowe's dad, Mr. Robert Bowe, reigned as Rex, and it was a splendid Rex as well. And they are accompanied by Christy Brown, I think I saw on one end, a Rex official.
Anyway, just going back to this music, not that I'm excited about anything, but this is the only ball that the symphony plays. Now, a lot of different balls play for Rex Used to Love, even though it's Rex's anthem. But this is the only place you're going to hear it like this, a string version of it.
15 members of the LPO tonight.
It's a beautiful new sound. Mr. Bowe, by the way, is a very smart man, not just smart in business, but smart in Mardi Gras activities also. As any father will tell you who's ridden in a parade, the most important thing is getting the special throws from the float and into the hand of the children. And when you don't do that, or when somebody jumps up and snatches a special throw, it can break the heart of the child and therefore break the heart of the father. So what Mr. Bowe used to do is he would buy 2 of the special throws, and he would put one in his wife's purse and have one on the float. And so if just in case the throw did not get into the child's hand, his wife would pull it out of her purse and hand it to the child and avoid the heartbreak. That is the smartest thing I've ever heard.
That is brilliant. And he's also extremely involved in civic activities. Oh boy, there's quite the reaction from our crowd. He's a board member of the Greater New Orleans Foundation, the New Orleans Recreation Department Foundation, and the Oxnard Health Foundation, just to name a few of his activities. And we are awaiting our Rex Court. And we'll also be meeting our pages. Each monarch has a page that assists with the mantles, of course.
Mr. Bowe's father was Rex, and it's somewhat unusual to have a father-son Rex combination. In fact, it's only happened 7 previous times in 147 years.
And when his father was Rex, they said that he was the Rex with the shortest name, Bob Bowe. So I guess there's a tie here.
And you saw our Rex cam just a moment ago, our view from the throne, which you'll be seeing throughout the evening as well. And once again, we are awaiting our court, our Rex maids and their dupes. And note the Rex crown. Foster Custom Awning does the canvas floor with emblazed in the center is the logo of Rex.
What a beautiful shot right there.
It really is. And our first maid is Miss Heidi Frances Hayne, the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Clinton Peck Hayne Jr. She is a junior at the University of the South in Sewanee, and she's majoring in religious studies with a minor in applied art. And her lineage goes back quite a ways too, doesn't it?
It sure does. Her great-great-grandfather, Franklin Brevard Hayne, was Rex in 1904, which is way back in the early days.
And our Duke is Miles Gregorio Zervigon, the son of Mr. and Mrs. Luis Zervigon. And Mr. Zervigon graduated from the University of Denver in 2018 and majored in communications. He is currently beginning a career in digital marketing, and he has a Rex heritage.
His great-great-grandfather was A.B. Freeman, who, of course, was a very prominent New Orleanian and prominent member of the Rex organization. And he reigned as Rex in 1932.
And you'll notice the pins, the spectacular pins that the maids will be wearing on their sash. We'll tell you a little bit about that in just a moment.
And Richard Freeman will be one of the escorts tonight.
And here we have Tommy Westfeldt, a former Rex, also escorting them tonight. Next up is Miss Anne Claire Callenborn. She's the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. John Jacob Callenborn III, and she is a junior at the University of Alabama, majoring in public relations. And she made the dean's list, and she's a member of the recruitment team
She also has some Rex lineage.
Her brother, William John Kallenborn, was a Duke in the 2016 court.
And her Duke is Mr. Charles Davis Friend, known as Davis. He is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Kenneth Charles Friend. He graduated from the University of Mississippi in 2017 and majored in integrated marketing communications. And he currently works for New Orleans Saints and the New Orleans Pelicans in the communications and broadcasting departments. And they are accompanied from some former Rexes. I see I believe it's Mr. Louis Frierson and Mr. Michael Kearney. Thank you.
And Mr. Friend was so enamored with Rex growing up that he named his first yellow lab Rex. There are a lot of those in New Orleans, by the way.
Okay. And we're awaiting Adele Bright Peckna, and she is the daughter of Mr. Stephen Price Petagna and Eleanor Spicer Bright. Miss Petagna is a junior at Washington and Lee University, majoring in strategic communication. And her mom was Queen of Carnival, wasn't she?
In 1983, that's right. And she's also a Bright. And whenever you start talking about Brights, the Rex lineage just starts to grow and expand because they've been around forever.
It sure does. And her Duke is Mr. Joseph Dwight LeBlanc IV, the son of Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Dwight LeBlanc III. And he is a senior at Spring Hill College, majoring in international business. And his sister was also a maid in the 2015 Rex Court.
He is an avid sailor.
And look at the beautiful pin. That is the maid's pin. All the maids are given that. Look at, woo! And that was designed by Adler's, I understand. And you'll be here. Adler's is very involved with a lot of the pins tonight. We'll be telling you some more about.
Good.
It is spectacular. It's a nice size, too.
And that was Johnny Kerner and Mike Rapier who were
great.
escorted.
Thank you for identifying them. And next up is Miss Lily Kuhn, and she is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Alan McMillan Kuhn Sr., and she is a junior at the University of Alabama, majoring in public relations and a President's List scholar. She wants to pursue her interest in public relations by studying abroad in Italy as part of the Lead Abroad program. She's accompanied by Mr. John Davidson Bailey, John David, the son of Mr. and Mrs. David Gunn Bailey, and he's a senior at LSU, pursuing a degree in industrial engineering as well as an MBA.
Mr. Bailey grew up going to the Grace Montgomery House every year for Mardi Gras. So he was especially sad when the house burned down a couple of weeks ago, as you can imagine.
Absolutely. And his mom reigned as Queen of Carnival in 1985.
Lily, by the way, was just elected president of her sorority, Kappa Kappa Gamma. And we see Hunter Pearson and Jack Laborde escorting them.
Once again, both former Rexes. And next up is Grace Allen Gamble, and she is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. William Christian Gamble. And she is a junior at the University of Georgia, double majoring in international business with risk management and insurance. She's also a member of the IHSA equestrian team. And talk about lineage.
Boy, talk about lineage. Her father was a Duke in 1990. Her grandfather, Eli Tullis, and great-grandfather, Garner Tullis, were both Kings of Carnival in 1997 and 1935, respectively.
And her escort, her Duke, is Mr. Cameron Brooks Emery, the son of Mr. and Mrs. William Brooks Emery. He graduated from the University of Mississippi in 2018 and majoring in marketing. And his sister, Meredith Brooke Emery, was a maid in the 2000 Court of Rex.
Terrific young man. For the last month, he's been wearing purple, green, and gold to work every Friday, stupefying his coworkers as to his fashion choices. Well, now I think they'll understand why he was doing it. We see Jeff Parker and Heidi Fowler, two very hardworking members of this organization, and Heidi was a former Rex.
And we are expecting Miss Ellen Heidingsfelder Sylvia. Ellie, she's known as Ellie. She's the daughter of Dr. and Mrs. Charles Paul Sylvia Jr. She is a junior at the University of Mississippi, majoring in marketing. And her mom was a maid on the Rex Court in 1988.
She says one of the highlights of growing up in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, is that her father would ride in Proteus on Monday night and Rex on Tuesday morning, which is a very difficult thing to do, by the way. But she loved to go out and see him at night on Monday and then the next morning.
And her Duke is Mr. Williams David Sumrall IV, and William is the son of Dr. and Mrs. William David Sumrall III. He graduated from the University of Mississippi in 2018, majoring in mechanical engineering, graduated cum laude.
And his cousins were maids in 2005, 2001, and 1995. And that is Ron French, also known as Dad, and Dennis McDonald.
I think you know that gentleman, yes.
Both former Rexes.
And of course, your mom is the former queen, Miss Flora Fenner French.
She was.
And next up, Miss Emerson Norman Carville. Emma is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Chester James Carville and Miss Mary Jo Madeline. Very familiar names. She is a junior at LSU, majoring in communications, and she's very involved with the Prevent Child Abuse Louisiana chapter. And after graduation, she wants to pursue a career in event planning.
Her father, James Carville, always rides on the Jester floating Rex. Well, this year he couldn't do it, I'm guessing, because she was in the court and they had to reposition him, which he was sad about. She said, "Dad, don't worry, you'll always be the Jester in our family."
And of course, Mr. and Mrs. Carville have been very involved in the past in American politics. The list is long. And her Duke is Mr. Hugh Bramhall Riley. He's the son of Mr. and Mrs. William Boatner Riley IV. He graduated from Vanderbilt University and majoring in human and organizational development. And talk about lineage.
The Rileys have about the longest lineage that you can find. He used to grow up watching his grandfather, Boatner Riley, toast the Queen of Carnival every year. And that's, of course, our own Dr. Stephen Hales,
to the right.
beloved historian.
And King Milling to the left.
Both former Rexes.
Yes. And last up, Miss Emmeline Blanc Monroe Kelly, the daughter of Mr. Rayburn Blanc Monroe Kelly and Miss Stacy Borges Kelly. She is a junior at the University of Colorado, majoring in anthropology and women gender studies. And she has a lineage too, doesn't she?
Her grandmother was a maid in 1959. Great aunt was Queen of Carnival in 1962. She grew up watching this telecast at night. To see her parents. Apparently, she says she had a little bit of separation anxiety, and she wouldn't go to sleep until she saw her parents during the Grand March, and then she could turn the TV off.
And her Duke is Mr. John Taylor Charbonnet, the son of Mr. and Mrs. John Denishaw Charbonnet Jr., and he graduated from Duke University, majoring in economics with a concentration in finance. And of course, Mr. Charbonnet's lineage is long.
As long as you can get. His father was a page in the Rex Court in 1976. A Duke in 1988, grandfather, John Charbonnet, also a very prolific member of this organization, reigned as Rex in 1988.
And accompanying them, I see to the right is Mr. Saint-Denis Villery III, and to the left
is Poco Sloss, Rex from 2018.
Yes, indeed.
A great group.
Really is, and we're expecting soon the Debs, our debutantes. Yes, indeed, the Rex Ball, live from the Sheraton, 2019, the climax of Carnival.
Well, I think the symphony passed the test.
His Majesty Rex sends greetings to Major General Burke Whitman, United States Marine Corps Reserve. The Rex organization asks that Major General Whitman please receive its Royal Decoration.
Of course, Major Whitman, for many years, was the head of the Marine Forces Reserve here in New Orleans, and then was reassigned to Washington, D.C. for many years, and now he's back temporarily because he's waiting for his next assignment. And as a Marine officer, he's commanded infantry, reconnaissance, light armor, and other ground combat units at every level. He has served as a corporate leader, a chief executive officer, chief financial officer, and board member of multiple corporations, including 3 companies traded on the New York Stock Exchange and 2 Fortune 500 companies. He's also a volunteer, having served on the boards of the Federation of American Hospitals, the Lovett School, the Marine Corps University. The list is long. He's on the founders group of the National Museum of the Marine Corps.
That's Christy Brown to the left, who as of this year is the president of the School of Design, which is the parent organization. So you can see him doing a lot of presentations.
He puts in a lot of hours.
You know, I had a chance to chat with him earlier, and the question is, his last name is Whitman, so is he connected to the family of chocolates? And the answer is no.
Oh.
But he likes people to think so, and he buys a lot of Whitman chocolate.
Rex wishes to royally welcome a select group of debutantes who will now be presented to their majesties.
Miss Kennedy Kathleen Cameron is attending
Miss Kennedy
University.
Kathleen Cameron, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Lachlan Hugh Cameron, escorted by her grandfather, Dr. Timothy Burns.
She is attending Tulane University and majoring in pre-law, history, and homeland security.
Now this selection by the symphony is called the Noble Spirit March. So we hear this during the debutante presentation.
And she's the president of Tulane's Club Volleyball and a member of the Youth Movement Against Alzheimer's and Community Advancement Network of Neighborhood Tutoring. And yes, we should point out that they are escorted by their fathers. This is a very nice tradition.
Miss Caroline Louise Chun, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Donald Keith Chun.
Caroline is a junior at the University of Alabama, majoring in chemical engineering. And she is a member of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers and an honors college president, presidential scholar, and she's on the dean's list.
Wants to be a chemical engineer. Amazing. I think she'll do well.
Miss Anna Massey Demas, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. George Bartlett Demas.
And Anna is a junior at the College of Charleston in South Carolina. She's studying for a double major in French and communications and a minor in studio art. What a great combination.
And she was captain of her high school tennis team. All the Demases are fantastic tennis players. In fact, that's her father, George, who was a professional tennis player at one point.
Oh, gee. She has worked in retail and is currently an events and management intern for the college's Bully Pulpit political series.
Miss Lane Roth Kehoe, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Gerard Roth Kehoe II.
And Lane is a junior at the University of Georgia, and she is focusing on computer science, and she wants to combine a career in computer science with lots and lots of travel.
Talk about an athlete. She was the captain of her high school soccer team, and they won the Georgia State Championships twice.
Such a lovely gown. It always amazes me how a white gown can look so different. There's so many variations. Spectacular.
Beautiful.
Miss Elizabeth Lynn Lunn, daughter of Dr. and Mrs. William Wilburn Lunn.
Miss Lunn is a junior at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and she's majoring in political science, and she's on the dean's list. She plans to attend law school.
She's a graduate of the Academy of the Sacred Heart, National Honor Society, French Club.
Miss Isabella Rawson Mathis, daughter of Mrs. Marion Hardy Mathis, Mr. Melvin William Mathis III, escorted by her grandfather, Mr. Richard West Freeman, Jr.
Isabella, known as Bella, is a junior at Tulane University and a French political science major. So French major and political science major. And she plans to pursue a career in marketing.
And she's a cousin of mine.
Oh.
My grandmother, Flora Fenner, was a Hardy.
And of course, being accompanied by Mr. Freeman, who is a former Rex himself.
Miss Corinne Renee Moffett, daughter of Mr. James Robert Moffett and Ms. Larae Zachariah Moffett.
Miss Moffett is a sophomore at the University of Texas, majoring in advertising and communications. She hopes to one day pursue her own advertising firm. And of course, we remember Mr. Moffett, who used to live in New Orleans.
Jim Bob.
Jim Bob, that's right. They had a Freeport McMoran, and he's now based in Texas. And there's Mr. Moffett with his daughter.
Miss Olivia Claire O'Keefe, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Maurice Rush O'Keefe, Jr.
And Miss O'Keefe is a junior at the University of Georgia and a business major.
Her father is Rush O'Keefe, and he's a very active member of Carnival Memphis, which has, as you know, close ties to the Rex organization. In fact, just about every year, a delegation from Carnival Memphis comes down to see Rex and the Rex Ball, and the opposite is true as well. We send a delegation up to Memphis frequently.
I believe Mike Kearney is also involved with the crew and inviting them down, as I recall. So they receive a pendant, don't they?
They do. It is vermeil and a pearl pin, and the Rex organization started doing this back in 2006, also crafted by Adler's Jewelers.
Gorgeous. So attractive.
The reverse side of the pin is engraved with Rex, the debutante's initials, and the year of presentation.
Among the many special things about older organizations is the fact that they often do have, whether it's a pin, a crew favor, but it's a memento that lasts forever, and brings back such good memories, and many times can be worn at other times of the year. It's not overtly purple, green, and gold.
Good point.
I think the violinist is extra busy tonight, don't you? It sounds great, the strings. Once again, for the first time, making its debut, members of the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra, the music that you're hearing throughout the evening.
And we should mention that for those who are fans of the Jimmy Maxwell Orchestra, we've heard for years, we're going to hear them after a while too, because they're on the Comus side.
The Comus side, yes, indeed.
It is the pleasure of the Rex organization to present to this year's King and Queen, the Queen of the Carnival of 1969, Henrietta Creevy Clay.
Our 50-year queen. This is a great tradition of honoring the queen that served 50 years ago.
And I understand that Ms. Clay has taught many of a budding tennis star in New Orleans. She's a terrific teacher, and we'll be visiting with her a little later. And we actually have some amazing footage from the Rex Ball from 1969 that we'll get to show her and everybody else. And she's actually known as Creevy as opposed to Creevy Clay. Now that's yet another version, a more tender version of If Our Eyes Is Still Alive, isn't it? Very sweet.
This is what they call their soft version.
Their soft version.
There are no drums in it.
Beautiful dress.
Rex's theme in 1969 was Genesis through Gemini for an intellectual theme.
Rex lieutenants who had so much color and so much assistance to the Queen and Rex.
Oh, those Rex lieutenants' uniforms are just beautiful.
Spectacular.
Those are the official colors of Mardi Gras, which were actually created by the Rex organization back in the first year of its founding.
This grand march and the first dance that follows are reserved exclusively for members of the Rex organization.
All right, Will, this is where you really show your stuff.
This is fun.
Help us.
This is sort of the highlight of the ball for most of us, to be able to go up and pay our respects and bow and or curtsy to the king and queen. So you'll see a lot of really excited members of the organization with their spouses, significant others.
Yes, indeed.
And this music I'm mentioning, because it's the first time, is Invincible Eagle March.
And I see Mr. and Mrs. Christy Brown and the parents of the Queen, Mr. and Mrs. Eric Johnson, and Rex official James Reese.
And then behind them, coming up now, Sandy Villery and his wife, Poco Sloss and Liz, Dugan Westfeldt.
And his lovely wife.
And that looked like Mr. Grace on the end.
And yes, indeed, and Anne. And
they have held up so well
much.
with the loss of their house.
And Dr. Stephen Hales and his wife Nancy.
The Logans. And
King.
that's Carmen Duncan and Kelly Duncan.
All right. King and June Logan.
We've got some Freemans in here and some Hams. And a hearty Fowler. That looks like Bill Langenstein.
Yes, and
Jeff and Connie Parker. She looks lovely tonight.
And Cece. And Peggy and Jack Laborde and Oliver Dellery and his lovely wife. Jack being a former monarch.
And both of them are captains in other organizations, so a lot of people in Rex involved cross currents in Carnival.
Anne and King Milling on the right.
Okay, and of course Tina Freeman Woolham and Mr. Philip Woolham.
That's Ruthie Frierson and Lou, also a very active member of this organization.
And Mr. and Mrs. Kelly Duncan.
Margaret Beer. Ron and Flora French, like I said earlier, better known as Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad.
And
Miss
Hunter and
Catherine
Kathy
Bowe.
Pearson.
And Mrs. Catherine Bowe, the mother of our Rex.
Bo and Caroline Riley on the left. Ken and Nina Friend on the left. The Rosenbergs. That looks like Alice Parkerson, but the lights are bright. The Patagnas. Brooks Emery. Brooks and Colleen and Meredith. That must be Meredith's husband. Story Charbonnet and Ann Lynn. Hunter and Kaylee Hill. They're neighbors and good friends.
I don't detect one particular color in terms of ball gowns. It's pretty varied tonight. So beautiful. And Mr. and Mrs. Teamer on the right. And I see Woody off to the left here.
That's Daryl and Llewellyn Berger. Here are the Demases. Fen and Shane French on the left, my brother and sister-in-law, who took my kids to the parades today. Thank you, Fen and Shane.
Did you ride today?
I was a little bit under the weather today.
Oh. And of course our 50-year queen, Miss Clay on the left. This is such an efficient way to pay homage.
It really is.
At some balls,
and a fun way to do it.
The reception line is very, very long.
Gay Lebreton and Jimmy Farwell.
And Mr. Jimmy Farwell and Miss Lebreton.
Ben and Sweet Dupuy.
And Mr. and Mrs. Bob Thomas. Yeah. We spotted them.
Daryl Bird.
Mr. Kearney.
And Cara Vandekar. The Kerners. The Rapiers.
So great to see Mike Rapier.
Special thanks to Daryl for his support of this broadcast.
Absolutely.
That of Iberia Bank. J.P. Himmel. A very hard-working lieutenant in the organization.
Stephen Hansel.
The Preers, William Preer is such a character, such a fun guy. Liam Grace.
And note the scepter. This is truly the king cam shot. You see the king scepter in the foreground from time to time. What a great view. And Shelby Westfeldt.
Yes, Shelby and John Mills.
And Shelby actually helps with the pages and the protocol and etiquette with Helen Butcher. Shelby works with Comus.
Looks like the Lausches.
Oh, there we go.
I think that's
yes.
Hallie Bowe, maybe?
Sally, yes, Sally and Ron Foreman. And Helen works with Rex and his queen.
Here comes Gordo Cobb on the right. And Gordo is just, he puts in so much time and effort to make the parade just perfect. Terrific guy.
And we should point out that actually we say the Rex Ball, but technically this is what's known as a reception. There's very little dancing going on tonight, is there?
There really isn't dancing on this side. The dancing happens on the other side of the street at the Comus Ball. And it is. It's a reception, but it's a wonderful reception. It's a great chance for everybody to catch up after a long, wonderful Mardi Gras and swap stories. And you know there are always lots of stories.
Well, today we were so fortunate with the weather, with Rex's rain.
Peter and Renee Laborde on the right.
Mr. Willem once again.
And here come Caroline and Bo Riley.
And this is Mr. and Mrs. Robert Moffat. What a beautiful dress.
I made a mistake earlier and I called out Hallie Bow. That was not Hallie Bow. Here's Hallie Bow coming on the right. Looks like the Patricks. And Michael Kearney on the left. The Gambles.
As we said, Rex is especially so proud of his relationship with the military. And there are many guests here tonight who are members of our military. And to the right, Mr. Robert Lyle, the head of the New Orleans Opera Association. Once again, Mr. Robert S. Bowe and our queen, Britt Johnson. And here we are, we're finalizing.
The lieutenants and their wives, they look beautiful.
Keene invites everyone to participate in the dancing.
And we just heard once again our MC, Mr. Mark Romegan. In case his voice sounds slightly familiar, he's also the voice of the New Orleans Saints at the home games. And by the way, we didn't have a chance to properly introduce you, Will. Of course, I know that you are working very closely with Dr. Hales and the history, but Will is also, by day, a local attorney and tax credit financier for films and historic preservation industries. So welcome once again. We're so glad you're with us tonight.
It's great to be here, and I really want to say hello to the kids back at home because I know that they're watching. They haven't gone to sleep yet. It's probably about their bedtime. And to all of our friends from around the country and around the world who are watching this broadcast. This really is a special way of showing the rest of the world what we do here in New Orleans and a very special part of our Mardi Gras celebration.
And look at this, Will. This is your life. No, actually, this is your grandfather's life. Darwin Fenner was such a prominent captain in the 1950s and 60s. He's off to the left in this amazing footage, and that is Henrietta Creevy Clay and
you're going to bring
Mr. Walmsley.
Tears to my eyes. I haven't seen my grandfather in a moving video since I was a very small child.
This was at the auditorium. We all remember and miss the auditorium. But of course, Mr. Fenner was so integral to Carnival.
He really was.
Introducing the doubloons, the beginnings of Blaine Kern's association.
That's right.
Kern, for many years, and his budding career. So
he
many reasons.
Truly lived and breathed Mardi Gras. If Ever I Cease to Love, his favorite song.
Really? It's so nice to hear that. But H. Alvin Sharp, this wonderful artist who had this idea about something called a doubloon, and when he pitches this to your grandfather, he literally pitches a prototype.
Alvin Sharp.
He throws it
back
to
around 1960. He called them Rex coins. Said, you really should do this. We promise they won't hurt anybody. He had to throw them at my grandfather's face to prove the point.
Oh my
and the rest is history.
And the rest is history. We can hear, as we said, the members of the LPO, 15 members. Conductor David Torrance, and what a delight, as you said earlier. Nobody's dancing, they really are visiting. And we want to meet the pages tonight. Let's start with our Queen's page. Henry Laws Cook. He is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Lighton Cook III. He's a student at Trinity Episcopal School. He's on the honor roll. And his cousin, Catherine Lewis, was a Rex maid, and his school activities include football, basketball, baseball, and lacrosse.
So his father told me that he's a fanatic for float beads. As you know, every float, especially in the Rex Parade, has its own bead. So he wants to get them all, and his father had to put a boundary on how far he was allowed to run after the float. Several blocks, it sounds like, but a real Rex fanatic. And
I asked some of the pages
kid.
how they found out they would be a page, and his dad said, you know, we've got to go to the Rex Den to pick up some books, pick up something at Rex, and sure enough, he walks into the Rex Den and was told that he would be a page. And next up we have Rex's page, and that's Mr. James Joseph Reese IV, and he is the son of Mr. and Mrs. James Joseph Reese III. And he is a student at Isidore Newman School, and activities include playing football, basketball, and baseball. And he's interested in Xbox, duck hunting, and sports, and talk about lineage.
Talk about lineage, absolutely. His father was a Duke in the Rex Court in 1995. Grandfather was a Duke in 1959. His aunt, Lady Catherine Reese, was a maid in 1997. And his cousin, Kate Ballard, was Queen of Carnival in 1989. Now, this kid is a daredevil. I remember seeing him at a swimming party with my kids there a long time ago when he was still in diapers. And he walked over to the high dive, not the highest dive, but still pretty high for a young man in diapers, and jumped off. And I wasn't sure he was going to come back up, but he did. And he made his way over to the side of the pool, and I thought, well, he learned his lesson. He's not going to do that again. Boy, was I wrong. He went right back to that diving board and jumped right back in again, and he must have done it 10 or 15 times. But, you know, his father was a helicopter pilot, so I have a feeling that daredevilry runs in the family.
Got you. You know, WYES TV is planning a fundraising event with an around-the-world theme, all to help us continue to bring you our local and network programs.
Save the date. Adventure awaits at the WYES Passport to the World Gala on Friday, April 12th at the home of Bob and Cheryl Merrick in New Orleans. Special thanks to the event co-chairs Bridget and Bobby Borries, Lauren and Ken Flower, Lisa and Carl Hofer, and honorary co-chairs Paulette and Frank Stewart. Tickets and sponsorships available at WYES.org.
I loved it.
And we are back and on the dance floor here, but I do want to thank Will, doing a great job with your maiden voyage tonight.
Thanks, Peggy. I had so much fun. It was great to be here with you and Errol.
You've been at many a Rex Ball, and we appreciate your help. Thank you very much, Will.
Thanks for having me.
And now, though, let's visit with Errol, who's actually on the other side of our ball floor in just a few moments. But before Will leaves, let me ask him one more question. You've been to many Rex Balls. What are some of your earliest memories of the ball?
So really, to be 100% honest, it was watching it on television at night, just like this. I would stay at my grandmother's house while my parents were at the ball, and I would look for them in the audience to see if I could see them dancing.
Well, you know, speaking of the ball broadcast, for many years, it initially started on Channel 6 up into the mid-90s, but it was just the meeting of the courts, and it took place from 11:30 to 12, but just the meeting of the courts on the Comas side at the auditorium, and and that was it. But of course, not anymore. Since 1997, we've been bringing it to you, both the Rex Ball in its entirety, and of course, we'll be going over to Comus pretty soon. But you're right, watching it in those early days was so special.
It really
and seeing if you could see your parents.
Exactly.
You know, and we kind of hinted at it earlier. Your mom was Queen of Carnival.
She was, yes. And we have 6 kings back in the lineage, 6 Rexes. I don't know how many queens, but a lot. But you know, in this town, you know who your first cousin is, your second cousin is, your 7th cousin, and your 8th cousin. So you can find all those little connections. Makes it fun. I always say that Rex is sort of like a family member in our family. We spend more time talking about Rex and Mardi Gras than we do about some of our uncles.
Well, once again, many thanks. We really appreciate your support tonight.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you. And now, though, it's time to visit with the 2018 King of Carnival, interviewed by our own Errol Laborde. Poco Sloth.
Well, here's a man who until yesterday was the reigning Rex. You know, it occurs to me you were lucky because Mardi Gras was late this year, so you got to reign longer than most Rexes do. At the authority. Looking back at your year, what were some of the highlights?
The highlights of the year, the highlight of the reigning Rex, I think, was the ride. The crowds that I saw were so unbelievably friendly. And I came away from it thinking, I really wish we could figure out a way to bottle this spirit and have it every day of the year. I'm not kidding. It was the most generous crowd I've ever seen. They were fantastic. And I came away from it feeling like I'm a better public speaker, although maybe we'll find out about that right now. It gave me some confidence in myself, and it made me prouder of the city, which I'm a native of New Orleans, and it was a tremendously uplifting experience. It really was.
From the time you found out you were going to be a Rex, usually they tell the Rex selectee somewhere around October of the year before. So from October until Mardi Gras, what was it like building up? I mean, do you feel like you had to learn things, or was it something that came naturally?
Well, it takes a huge amount of organization. First of all, there are a number of toasts and speeches that you have to give, and that was probably first and foremost in my mind. I didn't want to make a mistake. And organizing lists and trying to figure out the logistics, thank God I've got a wife who is a wizard at that. And it's funny, there's a real high when you're told, and then there's a bit of a lull because there's a period in between, and then as you get within 6 weeks or so, activity starts happening. You're trying to figure out who's going to be in town, and you can't give away the secret, and just a lot of excitement about getting ready for it. There's practice and fittings and so forth, and the Queen. And
so on Mardi Gras morning, when you get on the float and you're in the den, and then they roll it out, and then it rolls, you turn, and you see the crowd, that must really be an exhilarating feeling.
It is unbelievable. It's unbelievably exhilarating. And there are many parts of it that are. When you make the turn from Napoleon onto St. Charles Avenue, the crowd goes crazy. You know, there's a restaurant there that's full of people and a bar next door to it that's full of people. So that's wild. Gallier Hall is great. The Intercontinental is terrific where the court are. It's just one terrific thing after another. It's a happy group of people. It's a great day in the city, and everybody loves each other, which is the way it ought to be.
So even though you're no longer the reigning Rex, you haven't gotten away from responsibility. You're the ball chairman.
I am the ball chairman, which is a responsibility. It's a lot of fun and some work, but I enjoy it, and I think we have a great ball going here tonight. I'd love to know what you think about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Poco Sloss. Let's go back to Peggy. Thanks.
Thank you, Errol. And now it's time to thank some of our friends who made tonight's broadcast possible.
Funding for the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is made possible through generous community support. Streetcars rolling down the tracks and Iberia Bank both are part of today's New Orleans landscape. We believe in making our community better by giving back through charitable, educational, and cultural efforts that enhance our city, such as this broadcast on WYES. Fidelity Bank. As New Orleans as king cake, parades, beads, doubloons, and the families that get together to celebrate them all. Serving this community since 1908. Hail Rex, hail Comus, happy Mardi Gras. Support is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of legal services to a wide range of local, regional, national, and international client base. Online at joneswalker.com. The Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is also sponsored by the Riley Foods Company and French Market Cold Brew Coffee, New Orleans' own soul-fueled coffee concentrate.
Well, I got introduced to Hancock Whitney, and they have helped us double in the size that we are by giving us the financial tools to make that growth happen.
The New Orleans Tourism Marketing Corporation wishes visitors and citizens a happy Mardi Gras from the city where visitors leave with a story, not just a souvenir. New Orleans visitor information is available at neworleans.com. And by Richard Certified Public Accountants, richardcpas.com. Additional funding is provided by the law firm of Adams and Reese and Jonathan C. McCall.
I am so excited, Mrs. Robert S. Bowe. And of course, she is the wife of Rex himself. And how did he tell you that he was going to be Rex?
Well, he's a pretty practical, down-to-earth person, so it wasn't a great fanfare. He had told me that he had a business meeting, and when he finished the business meeting, he called me and said, it wasn't about that. So it was a wonderful surprise.
Well, how was your day? And yesterday and today, it's been pretty hectic.
It's just been wonderful. No, hectic makes it sound bad. It's been thrilling. You know, everybody's been so nice, and we've just gone from one great event to the next.
Now, when did he learn that he would be Rex? Around what time of the year?
Well, in the fall.
And
he just was so surprised. You know, he had never thought about it, and certainly didn't feel that he had done as much work as a lot of people do. It's a great organization.
You underappreciate it. No, but what a delight. But a lot of planning goes into this, doesn't it?
Well, it does. There are a lot of lists and a lot of decisions to make and a lot of invitations to issue. But it's all been fun.
Your dress. Tell us about your dress.
It's a real party dress. So that was the fun part, to look for something special for a special night.
Now, you were on of course, on the balcony at the Intercontinental today?
We were, and it was windy and cold, but still very exciting to wait for the parade.
I am sure. And how did you tell your children about him being Rex?
I think that when the time came that it could be told, because it was over the phone, because everybody's out of town, but it was just so exciting, and of course they remember when their grandfather was king.
Yeah. It's hard to keep a secret, though, isn't it?
It is hard to keep a secret, and it's not very comfortable. We're very glad the secret is out now. It was hard to
Well, once
conceal.
again, congratulations, and thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, of course. You know, in addition to pursuing her college studies, this year's Queen of Carnival, Miss Christina Britt Johnson, is very focused on community service as well as discovery in this interview.
The 2019 Queen of Carnival's reign began rather unexpectedly.
I was in town in March, and my mom said, let's go to Suzanne St. Paul and talk about her making a ball gown for your debut. And while we were there, my dad and another gentleman came in, and we started asking them, well, what color can my dress be? Can it be an off-white, or does it have to be like a stark white? And the man with my dad said, oh, that would be totally inappropriate for you to wear white. I can't believe you'd even think of doing that. And I totally thought the guy was crazy and had no idea what he was talking about. And then he said, I really think your dress should be gold to match this whistle, and pulled out the Rex captain's whistle. And it turns out he was the captain of Rex, and I had no idea and was completely shocked by it.
Christina Britt Johnson, known as Britt, is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Eric Lee Johnson. She attends Vanderbilt University, majoring in human and organizational development with a minor in psychology.
Afterwards, I am hoping that I can possibly work in nonprofit development. So I'd be working with fundraising and things of that nature.
Childhood memories of the Rex Parade are dear.
I could not wait for my dad and my uncle to come by on the float during Rex and just absolutely bombard us with all of these toys and beads and everything. It was definitely one of the best times of the year.
Important to this year's monarch is making time to help others as a mentor and volunteering abroad.
So something that I've been really fortunate to do is go on a couple of service trips to a small town in Guatemala and to Peru. And that's something I've really loved and really the first time I went on that, I actually didn't know anybody either. But that's something that I've always loved doing because, especially for Guatemala, every year I went back, we saw the exact same kids at the orphanage we were going to, and really building those relationships was something that I absolutely loved being able to do.
Her family connections to the Rex organization are enhancing her experience as Queen of Carnival.
Yes, my grandfather, Papa, was Rex in 1991. My grandmother, Dolly, was Queen of Carnival in 1949, which is really special because this is her 70-year anniversary of being queen, and even though she's not here with us today, it's a very special thing for me to be able to share with her. And then my cousin Lainey was Queen of Carnival in 2015, and my brother was a Duke in 2005.
Her Majesty's royal journey began with a dress, and her input on what her gown will look like at the ball is inspired by her grandmother's regal attire.
Suzanne is really a fabulous dressmaker, and when I told her I loved lace, she found this amazing lace that we beaded, and it's actually my grandmother's 70th anniversary since she's been Queen of Carnival, and so there's a nod to her dress with the chevron patterns along the bottom of mine.
Being at the Rex Ball this year resonates in two ways.
I actually have never had the chance to go to the Rex Ball because I was always too young, and then I ended up going to college and never had that opportunity, and what a way to spend my first Rex Ball as Queen of Carnival. I am so honored and unbelievably excited. I absolutely love Mardi Gras, so I know that this is going to be a really special way to celebrate.
And now it is time to go over to the other side of our wonderful showroom here, our show place, for Errol to visit with the Queen of Carnival's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Eric Lee Johnson.
Eric, we just had an interview with Christina that was done a few weeks ago, and she said one thing she was looking forward today was being at the reviewing stand, and when you float past, seeing you and making contact. Did y'all see each other? Did y'all make eye contact? What happened?
Unfortunately, we didn't. We had some delays in the parade today, and so the court had to leave early. But Britt and I had a little special moment this morning. We did the Royal Run, which, you know, is always a fun experience. So we did get to enjoy part of the day together, but unfortunately, we didn't get to see him at the viewing stand.
Well, there'll be a lot to talk about tomorrow. By the way, congratulations. I hear the Queen won the Royal Run.
She did. You know, it's amazing how great an athlete she is. I mean, she just did splendidly.
Well, Christy, you have a very moving story to tell. It goes back to 50 years ago. So tell us about it.
Yeah, hi. It was 62 years ago to the day, March 5th of 1957, where my father escaped Hungary in the Revolution and landed in New Orleans on Mardi Gras Day, March 5th, 1957 to the day. So it was a special day before, and now it's an even more special day, and for my father, more so than anyone.
So he was someone who escaped because of the Revolution, came to New Orleans, settled in New Orleans, and now today his daughter is Queen of Carnival.
And landed on Mardi Gras Day, and he says he loved it so much, he thought, you know, this is the greatest city ever, and now Mardi Gras is even more special. It brought him here, and now his granddaughter is the queen for 62 years to the day. So we're so happy.
That's a very exciting story.
Yeah.
So how did you all tell her that she was going to be queen?
Well, it's sort of an interesting story, and Christy's probably better at it than I am, but we decided to do it at a dressmaker, and I like
there. Anyway,
okay, so let's set the scene here. Y'all brought her to a dressmaker,
and we said we want to get her some ball gowns for Mardi Gras. We might as well get a head start, and so we brought her to Suzanne St. Paul's shop, and we were looking at different fabrics, whites and off-whites and ivories, and I asked Suzanne, you know, could it be off-white or could it be, do you know the rules? And she said, I don't know. And at the same time, Eric and James Reese happened to just show up. They were supposedly in a meeting together, and they walk in. So we asked them, could you help us pick? Would it be okay for Britt to wear off-white to Rex as a maid? And then James said,
A high-ranking Rex official.
exactly, that he said, white, you can't wear off-white and you can't wear ivory. And she said, so I should just wear white. And he said, you can't wear white either. And so our daughter thought he was crazy. And he said, and he pulled out of his shirt the gold captain's whistle. And he said, the queen her dress has to match my whistle. And she has to wear gold. And so that's when she found out. And it was very exciting for all of us, especially for her.
So how long did you have to prepare for this?
Over a year. We found out on February 20th and literally started going. And the dress is a year process. And actually, in fact, our daughter went to New Zealand from July 3rd through November, through Thanksgiving. I had to bring the dress with me to New Zealand for her to try it on to make sure it still fit after all that. So.
And then the national experience. Really quickly, your family is Rex royalty.
We've had a number of our family members in the organization as maids and Rex. My father was Rex in 1991.
That was Eric Johnson.
That was Eric F. Johnson. And then my stepmother was queen in 1949. And then we've had various cousins and nephews that have been maids and dukes.
It's good. In 1949, that was the Dolly Ann Suchon story. Yeah. And then that was the same year Louis Armstrong was and he was torn between guns. Yeah, it's a great story.
This year's the 70-year anniversary for her.
Well, it's a delightful story. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Let's go back to Peggy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Errol. And now it is time, though, to take a closer look at our Queen's gown. Let me let you know all about the Queen's gown. The Queen of Carnival wears a luminous trumpet silhouette with chevron detailing that pays homage to the carnival gown of the Queen's grandmothers, we said, Dolly Ann Suchon Johnson. Jewel-encrusted lace wraps the bodice and crosses at the waist before finishing with a black V in the Suzanne St. Paul design gown. Bordered chevron lace edged with an interlocking delicate scallop embellishes her metallic silk lame skirt. And golden shadow Swarovski crystals and bugle beads define the linear pattern of the French lace, while intricate beadwork adorns the grid, leaf, and scroll accents. Resting at the neckline of her gown is the organization's impressive Medici collar of heavily beaded gold lace covered with crystals, gold bugles, and Swarovski margarita flowers. The organization's gold mantle with white ermine trim and royal jewelry, including her crown and scepter, completes the Queen's ensemble. So very exciting times here in that magnificent, magnificent gown. And now, though, it is time to go back to Errol in just a few minutes because, the Pro Bono Publico Foundation has been so integral to the Rex organization, and the amount of money each year that is given out to very many worthy causes is truly remarkable. And Errol will be visiting with Mr. W.H. Merritt Lane. Errol?
Hi, thank you, Peggy. Congratulations, first of all, for what Rex does with Pro Bono Publico. This year, y'all gave $1 million. And how many years in a row have we had $1 million?
So we've been able to give $1 million for the last 4 years in a row, which really makes us a pretty significant local funder. That's really exciting because that attracts the attention of national funders and creates some leverage. We're very pleased with that number.
So this is $4 million that Rex has given to charter schools. And New Orleans is a national leader in the whole charter school movement. I mean, for all the years we heard about how bad public education is in New Orleans, now we're hearing a category that New Orleans is a leader and the rest of the nation is looking, but they don't have Rex writing checks.
Well, that's true. Katrina was horrible, but it did, after Katrina, we all kind of had this laboratory to start experimenting again. And that's really where the Pro Bono Publico Foundation began. Rex members were concerned and want to be constructively engaged in reforming the public education system. And that's really where this spirit came from. And we have actually granted $7.5 million since our inception. And we've supported schools that support 35,000 children. Our ultimate goal, kind of the overarching goal, is to ensure that every child here has access to a quality education.
From the very beginning of Rex history, the organization has had some sort of of public purpose. I mean, the organization itself was founded as a way of trying to bring New Orleans out of the doldrums of Reconstruction, bring people back into the city, rebuild the economy, and from the very beginning, pro bono publico, for the public good, has been part of the mission of Rex.
There's no question. You can see that spirit, having just experienced the ride today, the ball tonight. You see everybody coming together. This is something very, very unique about New Orleans. And you know what we saw after Katrina is that everybody who was an adult or a child had to leave. Those who came back with an extra passion. And I think we all feel this pro bono publico spirit. Rex really embodies it.
And if people want more information, I assume they can go to the website?
Yes, we certainly have a website. We would welcome people taking a look at it. I do want to say one thing, if I may. We're moving into another phase. We've just created a strategic innovation fund. And what's exciting about that is we intend to make larger grants that are multi-year and try to support initiatives that are either very strategic or innovative that'll take this kind of catalyze even more change and improvement for the public education system in New Orleans going forward.
Well, it's great work. Enjoy the parades too, but thank you very much. Congratulations on what you've been doing. Let's go back to Peggy. Peggy?
Thank you so much, Errol. And looking back a century ago and a half century ago gives us a glimpse into Carnival's rich past, as Diane Mack reminds us.
World War I officially ended when armistice was declared in November of 1918. But Mardi Gras, 100 years ago, was just a wistful echo of the unleashed revelry of years past. There were no big parades and no meeting of the jewel courts of Rex and Comus. But some of the old-time spirit was revived as maskers once again appeared on the streets.
There were decorated cars and trucks going down Canal Street. And there were a few small marching clubs, and the hope was that by the next year in 1920, all would be good.
Fast forward 50 years to Carnival 1969, which was very much in keeping with an eventful time when man first walked on the moon.
The theme of the Rex Parade in 1969 was From Genesis to Gemini, and it covered the entire breadth of human accomplishment all the way back from biblical times up until the space age.
The 1969 King of Carnival was Hughes Walmsley, whose father, Sylvester Walmsley, was a very young Rex in 1890.
Sylvester was only 31 years old when he was Rex. Later in his life, Sylvester served as captain of the Mystic Crew of Comus for well over 20 years.
The 1969 Queen of Carnival, Henrietta Creevy Clay, has fond memories of her king.
He was such a real Southern gentleman, so sweet, so reassuring, so accommodating, and lovely. We had such a great time. He had a wry sense of humor, and we had a little thing that we did during the ball. We would hold hands, and he would go 1, 2, 3 in my hand, and then we'd start moving to get momentum to pull the mantles. So he came up with that, which was very, very cute.
Creevy also has important connections to Rex going back many decades. Her grandfather, George Clay, was king in 1912. Her father, Elwood Clay, was a page in 1923 and a duke in 1933. He also participated as a lieutenant in the organization for many years. Elwood had strong opinions about his daughter's dress when she became queen in 1969.
And he thought Rex's dress should be gold. So his one input into designing the dress was he wanted it to be a gold material. He left the rest of the decisions to my mother after that.
Creevy's Rex lineage includes pages and dukes, as well as several female connections. Her aunt, Dorothy Clay, was Queen of Carnival in 1921.
So we've had a lot of fun and a lot of honors from the Rex organization.
In 1969, the queen of the Mystic Crew of Comus was Wendell Logan Simpson, better known as Wendy.
Here at the Louisiana State Museum, we are very honored to have her dress that she wore as Queen of the Mystic Crew of Comus. It's a beautiful dress, and it's very typical of 1960s styles. And it's very interesting to see how dresses that are worn by the Queens of Carnival can often reflect the styles of their era.
As you're about to walk on the floor, you get nervous, but then you get very calm, and it becomes like a dream. And it's still dreamlike to me. And what else could be more perfect for a young lady than to be a queen? Everybody dreams of that.
And let's hear more from Henrietta Creevy Clay, known as Creevy. We're thrilled that she's with us, and such great memories, too.
Yes.
How did you find out you would be queen?
Well, I came home from school, first year of college, and my father had been ill and was recuperating in bed. So when I arrived home, I went in to tell him hello, and I could tell something was on his mind. And he said, well, I have to ask you something. What are you going to do next year? And I said, oh, I guess go back to school. And he said, well, would you rather be Queen of Carnival and stay home? And I said, oh, sure. Ha, ha, ha. Thought he was kidding because he had that kind of sense of humor. So I thinking he was kidding, I said, well, I've got to go see my friends. So I spent the afternoon out, came home, we had dinner at the table. He said, well, I need an answer. And I said, about what? He says, what are you going to do? Go to school or stay home and be queen? And I said, are you serious? He said, yes. I said, well, I guess so. Who doesn't want to be a queen?
Now you have show and tell.
Yes.
Okay,
this
we have to
my father's.
And look at this, before we show that, on the dance floor.
Oh my gosh.
And
what
your
memories.
king, a sweet man.
Hughes Walmsley. And his 2 grandsons are here tonight with their wives. And I just had my picture taken with them. He was such a wonderful, sweet man, a true Southern gentleman, and as nice as he can be.
We have to show this too, and explain this again.
This is my ducal pin, the queen, the ladies' ducal pin, my year, and this was my father's ducal pin that he wore at the ball the night I was queen. So I thought I had too many pins on, so I thought I'd put them together.
Never enough.
I know, never enough glitz. So I put them together on my purse. So I put my hand here and he's with me.
Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And now let's move over to Errol with a very surprise guest here at the ball.
Well, you know, we thought it'd be a good idea to have somebody from Algiers. So we asked the staff, go see if you can find somebody who'll talk to us. And they found this person right here, whose name is Gail Benson. Hi, how you doing? You grew up in Algiers, and your memories of Mardi Gras, as we've seen the parades there.
It was fabulous. We had such a great time. We lived on Whitney at Opelousas, and we would go down on Opelousas Street and catch all those glass beads, and we would keep them and save them and wear them. And actually, I had some in a little box that I had saved for forever. And a priest friend of mine, Ken Hedrick, is really into Carnival also. And I gave him that little box, and he just went crazy. So.
Well, you know what I remember about those glass beads is that they were made in Czechoslovakia. And they had like a little strip of paper on it that said Czechoslovakia. And kids in New Orleans knew how to spell Czechoslovakia more than any other kids in the country. So in that area, we were well educated.
We really were. It was a great time to grow up.
Now today, you saw the Rex Parade at Gallier Hall, and you received a special prize.
Yes, I received a Super Bowl trophy. We got robbed. It was very nice. David Bernard gave it to me, and it was really fun. He had it engraved. He said he could get anything on the internet, and he found it.
Well, I'll tell you, I wasn't going to bring this up, but walking around the quarter today, the most common costume I saw was people dressed as blind referees. You know, they got the sunglasses on and they got the stick. So many people are still touched by that and can't get past it. How are you dealing with it?
You know, I feel like we need to move on. We lost the game and we just need to move on. We're getting ready for training camp now. We're doing a lot of recruiting now. And so I'm looking forward to training camp, moving on, and winning in Miami. In Miami, like we did the first Super Bowl. That's where we were.
But you got to feel proud the way the city reacted, and especially that Super Bowl Sunday where we had our own event, and the spirit of New Orleans and the passion they had for the Saints. I don't think any other city could have done that.
No, I don't think so either. I was so touched that everybody still talks about it. And I feel like we got more publicity from not being in the Super Bowl than if we would have been in. So it was great.
You know what it reminded me of? Coincidentally, 40 years ago was the police strike in Mardi Gras when they didn't have the parades. And that year on Mardi Gras, it was like the same thing. People went out and say, nobody can deny us what we're supposed to have. We're going to party anyway. And so there was a lot of festivity that went on. And that reminded me of the same thing of the bad call party we had.
We stick together. It's a good city. I think that we have in New Orleans more following than anybody in the NFL. I think we have the best players, the best team, coaches, and the fans are unbelievable, even with the basketball. I mean, they're there every night. It's amazing. It's just great.
You know, you've seen people protest before, but to be able to organize people in such a way as to not watch a show, to actually be able to dramatically bring down the ratings was pretty incredible.
It really is incredible. I mean, it really was. That's why I felt like we had more publicity by not being there than we did by being in it.
Anyway, well, thank you for being there, and thanks for doing an incredible job with This Is So Much the Soul of New Orleans. Thank you very much. And now let's go back to Peggy.
Thank you, Errol. And just a reminder, well, here's Arthur Hardy, by the way. First of all, Arthur Hardy's a Mardi Gras guide, as we know, but we wanted to remind everybody that coverage of the Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus will be repeated in its entirety immediately following this broadcast. And a reminder, of course, that we are broadcast on WYES, LPV3, and streaming at WYES On Demand on YouTube. And we definitely welcome Mr. Arthur Hardy. We are awaiting the arrival of the Comus captain. But Arthur, how was your day?
We had a good day. I was on the Jester float, and crowds were nice, a lot of barbecue pits and tents. We were delayed for about an hour, and I still don't know why, and that's a problem not just for Rex, but for the trucks and the people on the street. Something has to be done about that. Parades have to keep moving or problems start happening.
Absolutely. And one of the nice traditions around town, especially 3 weeks or so before Carnival, are the arrival of flags that many of the monarchs, including Rex and quite a few other organizations, are given flags in honor of their, of course, being their queen or Rex, and you can see them all over town.
Kings and Queen, and not just Rex, of course, Comus, Proteus, several organizations.
Yes.
And I've tried to map all of them, and you can't get them all.
Well, Foster Custom Awning does a lot of them, including Rex and Proteus. But my understanding is one of the services they provide is to mount these flags every year. And also it has to be 3 weeks to Carnival.
Exactly. And I found out that zip code 70118 is the most prominent one. If you're out hunting for flags, that's where you start looking. I've been out there with my camera, but as I said, you can never get a complete set of them.
Well, we should set up, of course, we'll be going to the Comus Ball a little later, but and the arrival of the Comus captain with a special invitation. But Comus is so important to the history of Carnival.
Well, it's important for so many reasons. We all know the start of Carnival of Mardi Gras, we celebrated, is Comus, 1857. But I've always thought they never got enough credit for what they did in 1866 when they came back after the Civil War. Had they not, I don't know if we'd have Mardi Gras today. They'd only been parading for 5 years. Remember, they came about because Mardi Gras had become violent. The press called for an end to it. And if Comus hadn't started, we probably wouldn't have Mardi Gras. But if they hadn't come back, if after the Civil War they said, you know what, enough, we have other things to do, they deserve all the credit in the world for keeping this thing going.
And of course the word crew, kind of a nod to Old English, and many of the Comus members were classically trained and interested in the classics and literature.
And they're just so important, and I think they were the first club to get involved in philanthropy. In 1861, they for war families, Civil War families that were having financial issues, they raised money. In 1879, Mardi Gras was canceled because of yellow fever, and Comus put their money into something called the Dietary Society, which was a medical fund. So they were doing things even before the Pro Bono Publico Foundation.
They were. They certainly were. And we should point out in terms of colors, the captain of Rex, and Rex's color really is very much gold tonight, but Comus is
silver.
Silver.
Yes, indeed. And I missed that parade. It was so wonderful, the title float that was always riderless, and instead of a scepter, the cup.
The cup.
The Comus cup.
And Comus is a god.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, we missed them on the street, but they're still functioning, and the ball is a magnificent thing. And of course, the close of Carnival will happen soon here.
That's true. And back, to today and your experiences, we were so fortunate. It was a beautiful day, a little chilly, but still beautiful too. But the view of riding on a float, though, Arthur, that has got to be just
it's phenomenal.
Very special.
You see so many wonderful things in the street, and as I mentioned, I was on the Jester float, so we got to stop at 2525 and see all the ceremonies going there. Really a bittersweet, maybe not bitter at all, a sweet moment, but some sadness, obviously with the terrible fire that destroyed that building. But they're coming back, and it was nice to see the Rex organization say, we're going to continue this salute. And it was very special. We had a good time out there.
One of the things, and I know you're very involved, of course, writing for the New Orleans Advocate, was the reintroduction of the Carnival bulletins, these pullouts that show you, that depict the parades. What a great revitalized tradition.
It's fabulous, and I'm so glad John Georges and the staff there decided to do that. And I wish I could take credit for it. It happened when I started with the paper, but I had absolutely nothing to do with it. But it's wonderful. And, it really shows you the importance. The Chaos Parade did not roll the other night because of rain. The only record we have of that, it basically is that Carnival bulletin. It's a parade we'll never get to see. They can't run it again next year because it's all satire. The satire will be stale by then.
Yeah,
but,
the frustration of that.
Yeah, but I know people who are collecting these things. You'll see them on eBay, so that's a sign of
We're not kidding.
Success.
You see a lot of New Orleans
Try to get a
Carnival
whole set in the last 5
eBay.
years. You'll pay a lot.
And if you try to go on eBay and buy something, especially of the old line cruise,
oh goodness,
be prepared to pay a lot of money.
Yes, you will. I've been there and done that a few times.
I think you're slightly familiar with that, aren't you?
At one time, I had about 120 Carnival bulletins. I've liquidated some of that because it's crazy. How many can you keep,
And the floor has been cleared for the arrival of the captain of Comus and his lieutenants.
And it's gotten silent.
It's gotten very quiet.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. The captain of the Mystic Crew of Comus has arrived to present an invitation to His Majesty Rex to visit the Comus Ball.
The captain of Comus has arrived with a very special invitation. Note the scroll that he is holding. His lieutenants are multicolored. Of course, you've got the purple and green, but some other colors too. The pages, keeping them busy. And I am very excited to share with you the fact that we'll know what the message will be through the magic of TV. When Rex reads the scroll, I'll be able to read it to you. But I'll wait until he opens it up. All right. Greetings, Your Majesty, our Carnival King. Let church bells ring and the angels sing. The mayor has given you the day to our town, and he's given you the key to our town. She's giving you the key to our town. Today, though, you are the one to adorn the Rex crown. Across the way on the other side of the street is a king, nay, a god, with identity most discreet. Where revelers abound celebrating the end of the season, their festivities are partial. There's a very good reason. As the leader of our region's premier heavy construction biz, building streets and airport bridges and everything there is, serving scouts, St. Rita's, St. George's, and Country Day School, there is a doubting why you chosen to rule. There's no doubting that you've chosen to rule. And justly admired for your accomplishments and style, we request that you come on over and stay a while. So bring Queen Brit and the others in your court. The walk across the red carpet is easy and short. Comus.
That's great, isn't it?
It really is.
So much ceremony and yet a lot of humor, huh?
Oh, yeah. And of course, so many members of both organizations know each other, and the long family history, as we've said too. But to remind everybody, we are at the Sheraton Hotel on historic Canal Street, and the Comus Ball will take place across the street, is taking place across the street at the Marriott. again, Robert S. Bowe and Christina Britt Johnson. And they will be leaving with their court. The Rex Ball will still be taking place for a little while, but many of the members of the court will be going over on the red carpet. By the way, if it had rained, though, limos are always ready and waiting,
yes.
just in case.
And how's about the LPO?
I know. What?
We're enjoying strings
A
tonight.
rendition
Yeah.
of If Ever I Cease to Love.
How regal, huh?
Yes, indeed. And as we mentioned earlier, that her dress is the design of the dress is an homage to her step-grandmother, Diane Sushon Johnson. The use of the chevron motif in it, Mrs. Johnson's dress was very similar in 1949. Yes, some serious strings, huh?
Oh, yes, indeed.
15
It's
members
lovely.
of the
Yes, it's
Louisiana
lovely.
Philharmonic Orchestra performing for us for the first time tonight. But if you're missing Jimmy Maxwell, you'll hear from him in just a little while at Comus.
On the other
But we're
side.
very glad to have the LPO with us tonight.
And don't you know people worldwide are watching this tonight?
Last year, we were able to discover that folks in over 45 countries.
I believe it. I heard from some of them. And they were very happy with
Glad
it.
to hear that.
Yes, indeed.
And they are accompanied by Mr. Christy Brand, who is the president of the School of Design, which is the organization that makes possible the Rex Ball.
And a former high-ranking official.
Absolutely. And Poco Sloss, who Errol interviewed earlier, was of course the King of Carnival last year, but he is the ball chairman. So he wants everything to run very smoothly.
It's amazing how many former kings of Carnival you would think after the highest honor they would just retire or go away. No. And it's well, I guess it is a step down, but they're lieutenants, they're
Still impressive.
Chairman, and they're very, very much involved in a different role.
And by the way, we wanted to say that the Winter Palace and the decor tonight is made possible by Mardi Gras Productions. Blaine Kern Jr. Is at the helm for that, and he's been doing this ball for many, many years. And Steve Connect, who has worked for Mr. Kern for a long time, is very busy with his staff, putting on the crowning touches. It's quite an effort to turn a ballroom, however beautiful the ballroom, into a winter palace.
Does a really good job.
And here are the maids, the Rex maids of this year with their dukes. It is such a lovely rendition, If Ever I Cease to Love.
It is a bit different.
You will notice as the court departs that there will be, of course, members of the audience leaving too, because a lot of them are related
Yes.
and family members.
And
to
I bet
go
they all
on the
have
other side.
invitations
Yes,
to
they
them.
do. Yes, they do. We were talking about Rex favors earlier, and you know they're just such a treasured memento. I see you're wearing your Rex ducal.
Yes, I am. I started collecting them. I'm missing 7 now of having the whole set
Of the whole
from
set?
the first one. I do have the first two, so 1874 and 1875.
Wow.
But there's some that are just about impossible. I've almost given up, but I do have a nice collection. I'm proud of it.
And a reminder that this wonderful canvas floor, Foster Custom Awning does it for many organizations, but the Rex crown, the emblem, is sewn into that.
Just beautiful.
Really impressive. Some folks are ready to go to the other side.
You see a few former kings of Carnival on the floor.
We were talking earlier about
Ladies and gentlemen,
the meeting of the courts used to take place at between 11:30 and 12 over at Comus because, of course, Comus especially had a parade. That's a little earlier these days.
Yep. I mean, we said that Carnival ended at midnight when
Yes.
when the meeting of the courts. But
So about an hour earlier than that.
Yes, I think so.
And now, though, let's go to the other side of the ballroom and Errol with a very special guest, the Honorable Latoya Cantrell, Mayor of the City of New Orleans.
Well, something a lot of people don't know is that last night at Lundi Gras, Mayor Cantrell was like one of the stars of the event. There's part of the ritual where Rex reads his proclamation, wanting a day off today and for everybody to be free. But the mayor's got to concur. And then you concur, and she was beautiful. I mean, you really analyzed the whole thing. You talk about budgetary problems. You talk about what impact this might have on your daughter's schooling. But ultimately, you agreed, and the crowd was pleased.
Absolutely, it was a great time last night.
Right. Now today, your day started by riding a horse. As I understand, you were flanked by the police chief and Marlon Guzman.
That's exactly right, keeping up with the tradition of the mayor starting off the Zulu parade to make sure that it begins on time and promptly. And of course with our police superintendent, Sean Ferguson, and accompanied by a mounted division as well.
Now, how was the perspective from a horse? I'm sure it's something that few mayors get to see anymore. I mean, you're closer to the people, but a little bit, up there. Well, what was your perspective like?
Well, it's one where you feel like you really are one with the people, seeing the crowds, seeing them so full of life. It's really inspiring and inspirational, and it's about what this city of New Orleans truly is known for, our culture, our people, that makes this city just so special.
One day you and Guzman and the chief should have like a horse race down St. Charles Avenue, and people would pay to go see that. They could raise money for it. It could be a good idea.
Well, we'll see, but this was the year that I asked the sheriff to start the parade with me, because previously, over the past 5 years, I've been riding with the sheriff. So now as mayor, I said, Sheriff, come on, man, and start it with me to show the love right back.
Now, you finished the day at Gallier Hall where you toasted Zulu and Rex.
Finished the day at Gallier Hall, toasted Zulu, toasted Rex, watched the parade, but then, of course, got out over even to the Treme community, underneath the bridge, gave out proclamations there, saw again the love of the people, the spirit of the people.
That area is so much a rich part of the culture of New Orleans Mardi Gras, right there, right in that neighborhood.
It really is, and it came through, I tell you today, it was a beautiful day. We could not have had, the weather was just spectacular.
You're starting to see a revival of some of the old Treme traditions like the skull and bones and the baby dolls. I hope this means there's a new generation that's interested in those old traditions.
Well, you know what? I think progress is the way of our future, which was indicated with LSU playing for the first time in the Zulu parade. And so while I said that, that's an example of how the state of Louisiana is making progress. And that also means the city of New Orleans with the first female mayor. So we're all in this together.
Congratulations on your first Mardi Gras. It looks like everything was successful as far as we can tell. So.
There are a lot of moving parts to make Mardi Gras work for everyone. And I have the utmost respect for the men and women of every different agency and organization throughout this city that make Mardi Gras what it is. And so I can't be much prouder than our people.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor LaToya Cantrell. Let's go back to Peggy.
Thank you so much, Errol. I'm thrilled that we have CWA Demarius Jackson with us, and of course, Chief Warrant Officer 2. Let me make sure I get your title correct. Okay, but you're heading up, of course, the Marine Forces Reserve Band. You all were so busy during the Carnival holiday, and you had to bring in some reinforcements.
Oh, definitely. We brought in 2 bands. We usually bring in 2. This year they were from both North Carolina, so the 2nd Marine Division Band in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing Band in Havelock, North Carolina.
Well, how many years have you been here now?
Oh, this is going on my 2nd year now, and I'm excited. I actually have to leave this summer, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the life of the Marine Corps, but I love it.
And where are you going?
I'm going to Okinawa, Japan, with the 3 Marine Expeditionary Force Band out there. So I'm looking forward to a good time. It's my 2nd time around. So.
Yes. Well, we congratulate you, and we have just a few photos of.
Oh yeah.
What a busy season.
Definitely. You know, the band marches over 35 miles. They've imagine doing a marathon essentially of Mardi Gras parades.
2 other balls.
Oh,
too.
definitely. We've done about 8 balls, 8 parades, multiple balls since it started. So it's definitely a busy time for the band, but we love it.
But you all keep busy throughout the year. The Toys for Tots.
Yes, ma'am.
Concert, and of course you've got the July 3rd concert at City Park. So you'll be here for this still, won't you?
Well, that might be my last go around. Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, but I'll be detailed with the planning of it and everything. I've loved my time down here. It's definitely been a pleasure.
Well, we loved having you here.
Thank
you so much.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And WYES TV is planning a fundraising event with an around the world theme, all to help us continue to bring you local and network programs.
Save the date. Adventure awaits at the WYES Passport to the World Gala on Friday, April 12th at the home of Bob and Cheryl Merrick in New Orleans. Special thanks to the event co-chairs Bridget and Bobby Voorhees, Lauren and Ken Flower, Lisa and Carl Hofer, and honorary co-chairs Paulette and Frank Stewart. Tickets and sponsorships available at WYES.org.
What an evening of special guests. We've got Errol, of course, with our brand new police superintendent, even though he's been certainly part of the force for a long time. Sean Ferguson.
Well, Chief, we were talking in your background. You're a native of New Orleans. You grew up in the lower Ninth Ward, and then into Algiers. And we kind of point out that your predecessor, Chief Harrison, was from Algiers also. Is there something that goes on in the water in Algiers, or what?
There's some good water on the West Bank. That's what we like to see on the best bank.
And the 2 of you knew each other as kids.
Yes, we did. We grew up in the same church together. Our families are very close.
Now, I was asking you about how you spent, what your Mardi Gras memories were as a kid. I thought what was really nice about it is that they were really family-oriented.
Yes, one of our family patriarchs has a residence on Upper Line Street, and our entire family would meet there every Mardi Gras day and catch wrecks as well as the truck parades going down Napoleon towards St. Charles. Every Mardi Gras year, that was our tradition.
Now, another tradition in Mardi Gras, and one of the really most interesting one, is the way we close Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and that is it's going to happen pretty soon at midnight in the French Quarter, and you're going to be taking charge of this. What happens?
It's a traditional walk to close down Mardi Gras as best as we could, a traditional ending to Mardi Gras, but the crowd on Bourbon Street can get a little rough at times, but we do our best to work with them, but to let everyone know this is the official ending of Mardi Gras.
I think the message is, well, you can stay here if you want to, but you got to keep moving. You can't just lie down on the sidewalk. You got to keep moving.
Absolutely, and the street cleaners come through. I think they'll definitely get the message. Yeah.
Now, you're new to the job, and right off, you're appointed, and then here's the Mardi Gras. Here's the parades. That must have been a lot to absorb in a short period of time.
It has been a lot. As many people have been telling me, out of the frying pan into the skillet. Just tell you always something, but that is a part of New Orleans. A big gumbo effect. A lot of things are going on at one time.
It's been said that the New Orleans police, through the years, are among the very best at big events and crowd control. Do you still think we have that edge?
I may be a bit biased, but I would say we are the best at dealing with large events, large crowds, and special events. Absolutely. The men and women have done an outstanding job this year.
Well, as the season ends, thanks so much for keeping us safe, and thanks to all the people that work for you. You all did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's go back to Peggy. Thank you.
Thank you, Errol. And now it is time to thank those who have made tonight's broadcast possible.
Funding for the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is made possible through generous community support. Streetcars rolling down the tracks and Iberia Bank both are part of today's New Orleans landscape. We believe in making our community better by giving back through charitable, educational, and cultural efforts that enhance our city, such as this broadcast on WYES. The Gustav Westfeldt Mcelhenney Family Foundation supports the renewal of New Orleans and the ongoing process of transforming our city's schools. Rex organization volunteers and the Pro Bono Publico Foundation are helping assure that every child in New Orleans can attend an excellent school. Brennan's Restaurant offers Chef Slade Rushing's modern interpretations of classic Creole cuisine served in Brennan's elegant dining rooms, Roost Bar, and Courtyard. Brennan's, over 70 years in the French Quarter. 417 Royal Street. Fidelity Bank, as New Orleans as king cake, parades, beads, doubloons, and the families that get together to celebrate them all. Serving this community since 1908. Hail Rex, hail Comus, happy Mardi Gras. The Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is also sponsored by the Riley Foods Company and French Market Cold Brew Coffee, New Orleans' own soul-fueled coffee concentrate. The New Orleans Tourism Marketing Corporation wishes visitors and citizens a happy Mardi Gras from the city where visitors leave with a story, not just a souvenir. New Orleans visitor information is available at neworleans.com. Support comes from Emmett Dupas, Wealth Management Advisor at Northwestern Mutual, specializing in finding solutions to help companies and their employees reach their financial goals.
Adler's, honored to be part of New Orleans traditions since 1898.
Support comes from Baker Donaldson, lawyers and advisors proud to serve the business community and support local programming. Additional support by Bellwether Technology. And by Richard Certified Public Accountants, richardcpas.com.
And now, here's our second Carnival quiz question.
In the song, If Ever I Cease to Love, what does it suggest that the moon is made of? We'll have the third and final question a little later in our program. Our Carnival quiz prizes include a one-night stay for two at the Inn at Hummus House, which includes a guided tour of the mansion and a plantation breakfast for two, a $350 value. The inn is located on the grounds of Hummus House Plantation and Gardens in Burnside, Louisiana, along the River Road. A 2019 Rex Parade Bulletin depicting this year's Rex Parade with its theme Visions of the Sun, illustrated by Manuel Ponce. A 2019 Rex Proclamation. This year's proclamation is by Alex Beard. It depicts beautiful images of deities associated with the sun in ancient cultures, shown above the outline of a New Orleans neighborhood. A copy of Mardi Gras, Chronicles of the New Orleans Carnival, by Errol Laborde and published by Pelican. A copy of the book New Orleans Mardi Gras Moments, by Judy Batoni and me, also published by Pelican. And a DVD of tonight's program.
And we are awaiting the arrival of Rex and his court. Welcome again to our live broadcast. Joining me this evening once again are Errol Laborde, editor of New Orleans Magazine and author of the book Mardi Gras, Chronicles of the New Orleans Carnival, and Dr. Stephen Hales, retired pediatrician and archivist for the Rex organization and author of Rex, an illustrated history of the School of Design. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hey, and we want to thank our friends at Louisiana Public Broadcasting because we are being seen statewide on their LPB3 channel. And of course, you can watch us on WYES, WYES On Demand, streaming on demand on our YouTube channel or WYES TV. But you know, now though, let's step back 40 years ago. as we recall an indelible moment in Rex and Carnival history, the 1979 police strike.
They went on strike, and fortunately Governor Edwards sent in the National Guard to patrol our streets, but there was no question you couldn't train those people just overnight to handle Mardi Gras parades. So the Tuesday before Mardi Gras, I called together everybody that had not paraded at that point and proposed that we just call it off. The theory being that you would remove the hostage. I felt sure that the Rex membership would approve of this, though I certainly didn't have time to consult with everyone, but I talked to a lot of people. And that Tuesday before Mardi Gras, we had all the people there that were going to parade in Orleans Parish from then until Mardi Gras, and they agreed to call it off. And a bunch of us ended up at a ball that night, and we got to talking about, well, what are we going to do with the court on Mardi Gras Day? By the next day at lunchtime, the members who were involved in that type of thing in the organization had come up with a plan. They'd obtained one of the country clubs, and we had a party that day. The king and pages came in their costumes, and the maids and dukes in their normal daytime regalia, and we had a good party. And I think the rest of the city did also, and it removed the hostage, and in my opinion, it broke the strike. At least they didn't carry out what they had tried to do, and I think the city was glad that we did it that way.
Errol, it is so hard to believe it's been 40 years.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, that story is one of the great civic moments in Mardi Gras history. But this was a time of real crisis. It's relevant to the story that Dutch Morial was the city's first black mayor. There was the police that were going on strike. Public sentiment at the beginning was on the side of the police. Morial stood firm, and if their demands became more that the city couldn't deal with, and if they really said, you know, you're not going to have any parades because we're going to stay on strike, public sentiment moved. And there was this great moment when the captains organized, and most of them, and stood behind the mayor and said, we're not going to be held hostage by the Teamsters Union. And this was Mardi Gras showing a really serious side of itself. People who thought, oh, this was just party people and frivolity people and the uptown elite and all those stereotypes, that they really saw some civic responsibility. And the man you saw talking right there, Brooke Duncan, was captain of Rex at that time. And there have been many times when there's been a crisis in Mardi Gras where the Rex leadership has taken leadership in the crisis. And Rex did it with that, with Brooke Duncan.
And of course, it was so sad that that Rex didn't parade, and other organizations too. But that day in the quarter, it was a beautiful day, and people walked around and were costumed, and but it was very sad.
It was a beautiful day. They came out to defy not being able to have the parades, and so we said we're going to show them, and so we're going to celebrate, and they did in a big way.
Yes.
There's always Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
If there's not a parade on the streets, there's a parade in the neighborhood.
You bet.
And Brooke Duncan is still revered in the organization. Just a wonderful leader.
Really. And so much more to show. More show and tell of Rex and these wonderful objects. Help us out with this, Stephen.
You know, people talk about the golden age of Mardi Gras and the art forms at that time, beautiful invitations, beautiful ball programs, jewelry, and so on. I would argue that we are seeing a new golden age. This is the Rex invitation, the artwork of Matthew Hales, really drawing on the visions of the sun, the theme this year, and just really a brilliant, beautifully die-cut invitation. I think many of those will end up in frames.
I like your phrase, the visions of the sun.
Visions of the sun, indeed. The ball program is another artwork done by Matthew Hales, really taking old images and old bits of lithography from the 19th century and bringing those into the present time. And I saw someone walking out of the ball just now with 12 of them under her arm, so I guess they're a popular collecting item. Of course, in there, the ball program includes the court and so on. The ducal medallion this year is really inspired by a ducal medallion from 1875. The sun rays radiating from the the medallion itself really speak to the sun. There's a new one of these, of course, each year, and the lady's pin on the right, a miniature version of the ducal medallion. Here is the 1875 ducal. 1875, actually, although these medallions were worn by members, there was not a Mardi Gras parade that year. There was not a Rex parade. That was the year of civil unrest, and the Rex did not parade that year, but there is a beautiful medal.
And we should point out, though, that many of these beautiful ducals and favors are designed by Adlers. They're very much a partner with the organization.
I mean, another art form. We, the jewelers, the costumers, the artists, the float artists, so many art forms of Carnival that were brought to a very high level in the 19th century and early 20th century. The doubloons, Rex brought these into the Mardi Gras world in 1960. I don't know how many millions have been thrown. Always the King of Carnival on one side and Visions of the Sun, designed from this year's theme, on the reverse. Very popular throws. This year, we're also, each of the floats had float-specific beads. So the theme float would have been today throwing Visions of the Sun, but each of those floats, beads and koozies and plushes and other things designed around that. New Orleanians can be quite obsessive about collecting full sets of things. So the people seem to want to have a bead from every single float, and that's what we try to give them. The King's Pin this year, Robert Bow had made a nice reference to his float here. Robert is usually, when he's not on the King's float, rides on the Boeuf Gras float. And the garland around that Boeuf Gras neck is multiple species of flowers. He evoked that with beautiful enamel and jewels. He worked with Adlers for that design. Very popular.
One more mention about Adlers. I just have to show you my beautiful necklace, which was designed by Tiffany Adler. So we certainly appreciate the loan on this. So gorgeous. And thank you very much, Stephen. As we are about to move over to the Mystic Crew of Comus Ball, it is fitting that we recall a true palace of Carnival that left us a century ago.
For 60 years, the French Opera House was the center of cultural life in New Orleans. It was a home for opera, theater, and even used as a palace of Carnival. Designed by architect James Gallier Jr., the French Opera House was built in just 7 months, opening in 1859 at the corner of Bourbon and Toulouse Streets. It quickly enhanced the city's reputation as a world-renowned center for opera. Photos show the scale and size of the building, with 4 tiers of seating welcoming patrons from all walks of life, including members of the white and Creole of color communities and slaves. In addition to opera, the building was a venue for vaudeville shows, plays, and carnival balls. The Mystic Crew of Comus first hosted a ball in the facility in 1869. In all, Comus would stage 31 balls there during the building's history. Although Rex never staged a carnival ball there, at least 270 carnival balls were held at the Opera House during its lifetime. During World War I, the Opera House fell on hard times and was forced into receivership. Businessman and philanthropist William Radcliffe Irby acquired the property and donated it to Tulane University. Its future seemed bright until that dark day, December 1919, when the building was destroyed by a massive fire. Almost 60 years to the day it opened. Lyle Saxon may have best captured the emotions of the city when he wrote in the Times-Picayune, "The heart of the old French Quarter has stopped beating." Today, the site of a hotel, the French Opera House was essential to the city's rich architectural, musical, and carnival history.
In our feature that we mentioned, in It Is True, there was never a Rex Carnival Ball at the French Opera House. However, Dr. Hales has made a discovery concerning balls in Rex.
Everybody has always said that Rex never celebrated its imperial reception in the French Opera House. But one time, Rex actually recreated its ball halfway through Lent. This is an old Creole tradition of the mi-carême. Somehow the Creoles, midway through Lent, somehow they couldn't get all the way through Lent without going back to celebrating. So on mi-carême, also St. Patrick's Day, balls were held, and one year, 1890, when George Soule was king of Carnival, the whole Rex court came back together and they recreated the Rex ball in the French Opera House.
Now, I believe you have some of the stills from that. It was an invitation?
Yes, an invitation and admit card. And when it first came, there it is, into our collection. You notice it says Imperial Opera House, 19 March 1887. That doesn't compute. You know, we don't have Mardi Gras that late, and Rex and the Opera House don't go together. But that year they did.
And look at that admit card. And talk about the lithography. Splendid, huh?
Yes, indeed. This is this would have been in for the original one. This Tuesday, February 22nd. That was the first Rex ball, and then the mi-carême ball in mid-March.
Yeah.
You can't have enough carnival balls.
That's true. You really can't.
Well, Rex, of course, did go to the French Opera House as a visitor once the tradition of the meeting of the court started.
1882.
And then that started in 1882. But and by the way, there's never been an official explanation why they started it. But my theory is that 1882 would have been the 25th anniversary of Comus and the 10th anniversary of Rex. So I got a feeling these guys were together and talking this over, say, we got 2 anniversaries here, let's stage something. And they put it together. And the mayor Shakespeare, was Rex that year, so he'd have been in a position to arrange for like rapid transportation from Washington Artillery Hall, which is where the Rex Ball was.
Near Gallier Hall.
Near Gallier Hall, to get to the French Opera House. It must have been a wonderful sight to see, the mayor as Rex and his wagons galloping over there. And so that was the beginning of it. 1919 was not a fun year. I mean, because of World War I had just ended, but the armistice had been the previous November, and so the carnival establishment really didn't have time to create carnival parades. So there were no carnival parades of the traditional kind. Now, some of the marching groups, like the Jefferson City Buzzards, didn't march that year, but there wasn't a big carnival. And one of the newspapers even had I think fearing carnival wouldn't come back, had an editorial that said, a cartoon said, "Gone but not forgotten." And they had the symbols of the other crews, like mourning on top of the grave of Rex. And so I didn't think they saw it coming back as soon. And then to top it off with the burning of the French Opera House. So
which was really the cultural heart of New Orleans, too.
It was a bad ending to the decade. Let me say one thing real quickly, though. People always talk about how quickly it was built. It was built in 7 months. Imagine building in 7 months without modern technology. There were some people who were critical of that and said that might be why it burnt down, because they thought there were areas where maybe construction was a little bit too rushed, and so that could have been a factor.
Well, I have news. Rex has crossed Canal Street and is on his way to the historic meeting of the courts, and we have footage of this. Here we are. Once again, we're on historic Canal Street. There is a red carpet. If it had rained, there would have been limos waiting, right, Stephen?
Indeed, if it rains, and that's it. That hasn't happened recently. But this is an example of how Mardi Gras and Rex innovates. I mean, if you've got a new challenge, you solve it in a new way. After Katrina, the Comus Ball and the Rex Ball ended up on opposite sides of the canal. The red carpet's a lovely solution to that.
And a lot of folks come out to see this.
They do.
Carnival fans and heading to the Marriott. Mm-hmm. And also, as we know, Comus's ball starts a little bit later than Rex's, but there's a simultaneous segment to it. And so we're going to be able to show you, though, when Comus, a god himself, appeared behind the scrim, adding lots of sort of mystery and magic. Here we are. You can see the cup, the logo, and the MKC. Very dark.
Comus has always prided itself on this mystery, the
and
Comus parades.
Huh?
They like to sort of appear out of the mist, and really a delightful imagery that we're seeing.
And for those of you who are interested in mythology, of course, Comus was a god, and was known for the fact that in the forest where he would dwell, sometimes unwary passers-by would come by and he would offer them a sip of something from his cup, And it turns out, unbeknownst to them, they would then take on half man, half beast. Their heads would turn into animals. And so it wasn't good to get a sip from Comus's cup, but pretty whimsical too. And this is another really lovely addition in more recent years to the Comus ball, these papier-mâché heads that represent characters from earlier Comus balls.
Yes, many of those lithographs survive, and that's how we get that little glimpse into old Comus history and art, and this has come back in a nice way. I think some of the newer members of the organization may be assigned the responsibility.
They're pretty heavy. It's kind of heavy. It's papier-mâché, but heavy, huh?
But we would assume the newer members are young and strong, so...
We will. And back to Comus's lineage as the son of Bacchus and Circe. That's quite the combination.
You know, the early Creoles were fond of mythology. Not only the names of many of the carnival organizations took their name from the realms of mythology, but many of those characters found their ways into the themes and the parade designs and the ball designs, just very rich.
And we now
they
get
were educated in the classics.
Absolutely.
That is what you taught people back then.
Yes, and now though it's time to meet the queen of the Comus ball, and she is Lucy Sandoz Lanier, and she is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Charles Munson Lanier Jr., and she is attending the College of Charleston. She's a junior. She's an art history major as well as gallery management major, and this lovely dress. And as we said earlier, look for Comus in silver, the Queen's gown and the Comus captain and everyone in silver, while we're used to on the rec side, the gold. She was in Les Pirouettes Ball. She was the queen of Les Pirouettes, Squires, Apollo, 12th Night Revelers, Mithras, Atlanteans, and Momus. Very busy this season.
Indeed. You know, these are very accomplished young women, off doing wonderful things. I'm impressed with the quality both of the maids and the dukes in these courts, and very bright promise.
Yes, and we get to introduce you to the pages. Very exciting. You know, a Comus, they each have 2 pages. So we look forward to this. And once again, we are at the Marriott Hotel. And we have Mr. Jackson, Westfeldt, Windmeyer, Fitzpatrick. That's Comus's page. He's the son of Mr. and Mrs. Brian Wallace Westfeldt Fitzpatrick. He attends Trinity Episcopal School, and his lineage in Comus is cousin Mary Scott Westfeldt McKinnon was queen, and great aunt Metha Westfeldt was queen. And he was told in the car on the way to somewhere, like, oh, by the way, he was going to actually a page fitting, and he didn't know it. He just said, his dad said, we're going to go someplace. And that's when he was told that he would be a Comus page. We have next up Mr. Thompson Pierce Schmidt, Comus's other page, Thompson, and that is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Michael Hugo Schmidt. He is a 4th grader at Trinity Episcopal School, and his family, of course, also has Comus lineage. His cousin Constance Airy Parker was a maid in 2003. His cousin Ann Cock was queen in 2012, and he too was on the way to a fitting, and his dad said, well, we're going to go have lunch too, and instead he stops and tells him what's going to happen. And now we go to the Queen's pages. Mr. Litchfield Clark Barbara, that's the Queen's page, and that's the son of Mr. and Mrs. Lee Nicholas Barbara, and he is a 5th grader at Metairie Park Country Day, and he's interested in flag football and golf, and his uncle David Carrington Preuss was in Comus. In 1981, he was a page. And then finally, the Queen's other page, we have Albert Peyton Bush V, and he is the son of Mr. and Mrs. Albert Peyton Bush IV. He is a 4th grader at Trinity Episcopal School. He loves hunting and fishing with his dad, grandfather, and uncles. And he was told at dinner, by the way, you're going to be a page. And he loves flag football, lacrosse, and baseball.
Visiting with these pages at practice on Monday, I asked them what 3 things they couldn't do. They said, first, you can't step on the train. Second, you can't fall asleep. And third, you can't take off your hat.
That's wonderful.
Really,
And it's a late night for them too, so probably
It
a little
is indeed.
sleepy, huh?
You know, when you talk about pages, it reminds me.
And here's the captain.
I'll come back to this because something's about to
Yeah.
happen here.
I think something very exciting is going to happen.
And of course, if ever you have any doubt, you can identify a captain by his whistle.
Yes.
The Comus captain has served for many years and very, very able director of that oldest of Mardi Gras crews in New Orleans. Really a keeper of traditions that are so very important. They don't parade anymore, but...
and see the cup, of course, in the middle there is their logo, their emblem. An MKC atop the throne.
Mr. Crew of Comus.
And as we point out, as you see this unwind, that in the last hours of Mardi Gras, it's the Comus captain that's pretty much running the show. So it started with Comus, and each year symbolically it ends with Comus. I love that shot of the crowd down at the bottom, the silhouettes. It's a nice crowd.
And once again,
the meeting of the courts would have been quite a natural thing in many ways. There certainly is an overlap in the membership between these two organizations, and I think the crossing over and visiting the Comus court and royalty, greeting royalty is just a wonderful pinnacle and end of the carnival season.
Absolutely, and we're waiting our heralds, and Dr. Todd Engelhardt and Barney Floyd have both been Rex heralds for a long time, and Dr. Engelhardt is actually a thoracic surgeon at East Jefferson Hospital, and Barney Floyd is a very busy musician. He's been nominated for a Grammy 4 times, and he's played with a lot of great groups, but one of his ongoing engagements is he is part of this Joe Simon band, long-time band at Commander's Palace during the brunch. A lot of people remember that band, and he's very active in it. He also plays with the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra, too. So these two gentlemen have a long history with Rex. They were, as we saw in the footage yesterday, they were at the Lundi Gras, where Rex is, usually the heralds are, too.
They are.
And we're waiting for them. This is a Comus lieutenant.
One of the Comus lieutenants coming in, and a number of
I'm
Rex
hearing
members in the background.
Let's see. Where are our heralds? We'll see them hopefully soon. There we go. Barney Floyd on the left, Dr. Todd Engelhardt on the right. Rex and his queen have entered the building, getting ready for the meeting of the courts. There's Anne Grace bidding the captain well. If Ever I Cease to Love, played by the Jimmy Maxwell Orchestra. Mr. Robert Espo and
what a wonderful
Christina
king of Carnival.
Johnson.
He's had a very full day and been very gracious at each point along the way.
And we have Comus, of course, and Miss Lucy Sandoz Lanier.
And these two queens were childhood friends for many, many years, shared birthday parties, and here they are greeting each other as debutantes and queens of Carnival and Comus, respectively.
The meeting of the courts, Rex and Comus 2019, live. Since 1882, as we just said. And the captain escorts our Rex Queen over to Comus.
Very careful and
shortly.
very traditional choreography here. The Rex Queen will await Comus, who will join her shortly, the Queen of Carnival, and will then process the Comus court in the background there. And Rex will escort the Comus Queen in this Grand March.
And of course the Comus Ball is being held at the Marriott Hotel on historic Canal Street. Here's the captain. And we should once again point out, of course, that the identity of Comus is never revealed, and his mask is from France. And most of the time there's a smile, but not always. But tonight there is, isn't there?
This is a very happy Comus. I love the contrast of the silver costumes and the gold costumes and the intermingling here.
You know, within the organization, from what we've been told, is that while Rex is selected by a committee within the Rex organization, Comus is selected by the captain. And so a lot of people, there's no real committee that nobody really knows. And so a lot of people, if they find out about it, it's more towards the last minute.
Secrecy is a wonderful carnival tradition, and sometimes there are rumors, and sometimes there are decoys. Who will be Rex? Who will be the Queen of Carnival? Who will be Comus, the Queen of Comus? And it's always a guessing game, and more often wrong than not.
And of course, so much work goes on into being a captain of any organization.
Oh, these men I admire so much. It is a year-round passion and avocation. Each of them will have other things they must do professionally, but so much of their time, and the closer you come to Mardi Gras, the captain's cell phone never stops buzzing, and problems to solve. All of this, of course, relies on lieutenants and others who volunteer their time within the organizations. We can't commercialize our crews, and we wouldn't do that.
With emphasis on volunteering, we need to make that very clear.
Yeah.
And it's a year-round effort, too, especially with all the activities that both organizations are involved in.
Indeed. Yes, it is a year-round pursuit. I mean, putting a parade together takes that long. The planning that goes into the ball and these presentations is just enormous, and it has to be just meticulously done.
And the graceful way of the queens, of course, is also helped in a great way by the etiquette ladies. We
yes,
have Helen Butcher
wonderful
and Shelby Westfeldt. Shelby with Comus.
They work with the pages. They work with the queens of Carnival, the queens of Comus,
both former
and they
queens
work
themselves,
with the kings.
Huh?
I mean,
you had that experience.
I have just
didn't
a
you?
soft spot in my heart for my careful instructor. One does not come into this life knowing how to properly use a scepter.
That's true. Now, Errol, let's talk about the music here. Aida.
Well, we're coming to the theme from Aida, yeah. It's such a beautiful piece of music.
The Triumphal March from Verdi's Aida.
We've pointed out, I think it's a story worth understanding, that Aida was created. Verdi was hired by the ruler of Cairo to compose the piece for the opening of the Suez Canal. And it made its debut in December of 1871 in Cairo, which was weeks before the first Rex parade. Now, of course, they didn't know about each other, but this piece of music and Rex are really contemporaries. And they're even more contemporary than that because Verdi didn't consider the Cairo opening to be the official opening. He wanted the one in Milan to be the official opening, which was on February 6th that year. The first Rex parade was February 13th. So there's really only 7 days that separated the official opening of Aida and the first Rex parade.
A tradition, and when Henri Schindler was part of our broadcast, that we enjoyed having him discuss, was a nod to what Carnival was really all about.
There was a book written in 1934. It was commissioned by the Comus organization. A man by the name of Perry Young was hired to write it, and he wrote this introduction, which people remain stunned by. And it hits some beautiful analogies, but it really refers to the closing of Carnival, which is the stage that we're ending right now. He wrote, "Carnival is the butterfly of winter, whose last mad flight of Mardi Gras forever ends its glory. Another season is the glory of another butterfly, and the tattered, scattered fragments of rainbow wings are in turn the record of his day." And what he was saying with that is that you look at this carnival, but there's still as much as you try to analyze it and to learn about it, there's still the scattered fragment elements out there, and
very
it's hard
delicate.
to just put it all together.
Yeah, Carnival is very delicate.
Butterflies are woven into so much of Carnival art, jewelry and pins and costumes. If you look carefully at Rex's costume, you'll find the occasional butterfly reference there.
And even the Butterfly King,
Butterfly King,
clothes.
19th century invitation put the butterfly wings on the King of Carnival, and that's become an enduring symbol.
Including a float.
The last permanent float we added to the parade is the Butterfly King float, beautifully animated.
Now we're coming up to one of my favorite scenes because all the monarchs will be on the royal throne and they'll be sceptering, and I just think that's a very, very special view.
And they have practiced that.
You went through that, huh?
And busy pages, sorting out trains and...
Well, Stephen, the year you were Rex, how long did it take to rehearse the meeting of the courts? Was that something you could do quickly, or was it hours? Or
because of the secrecy, that work was done individually up until just barely before Carnival. So there, Monday morning before on Lundi Gras, the day before Mardi Gras, we have a brief rehearsal at one of the hotels, and a stand-in for Comus will take that role, and the Queen of the Carnival and the Comus Queen and Rex will finally put that choreography together. And that's the first time they'll practice that with their harnesses and trains and so on. These are heavy, and you need to learn to walk with them, and I think we've just had particularly graceful monarchs this evening.
They don't make it seem heavy, do they?
Absolutely
It's very
beautiful.
smooth.
Yep.
Here we go. 2019, meeting of the courts. Now, we should point out that at the Comus Ball, the maskers, the members of the organization, actually do dress out. So you'll be seeing dancing. This is a ball, as opposed to a royal reception, and quite colorful too.
Yep, it's a nice contrast. You'll see Rex members on the ballroom floor, not with masks, but with the tricolored ribbons. You'll see the Comus members of the Mystic Crew of Comus who are costumed in a more traditional ball mask format.
And we are thrilled about introducing to you the maids of Comus, and who were presented earlier in the evening, and we'll get to show them to you. And first up was Panton Quarles Agnew, known as Quarles. She is the daughter of Mr. Frank Delahousie Agnew and the late Mrs. Agnew, she's the daughter of Mrs. Frank Delahousie Agnew and the late Mr. Agnew. She is attending the University of Mississippi. She's a junior, and her family has a Comus connection because her sister, Sarah Kent Agnew, was a maid in 2015.
She recently spent a semester at sea. She's I know Quarles well, and I know she's very gifted at working with young children.
And next up, we have Miss McAllister Wynne Brewer. And she is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Craig Wren Brewer, and she is attending Rhodes College. She's a junior, and she's studying international studies and political science, and her mom was a maid in the 1990 club.
She's studied in Thailand and Spain and hopes to use those language skills to work in Washington, D.C. at some point.
And we also have Emily Calhoun Kandek, and she's the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Sean Kehoe Kandek. She is a junior in Vanderbilt, and she is majoring in human organizational development and economics, and minoring in computer science.
She has ties to both New Orleans and Hawaii. Her middle name translates to Child of the Rainbow.
Oh, how beautiful. And her family has some Comus connections there, too.
Several Crusells, Carolyn Crusell Kandek, Aunt Carolyn Crusell Wogan, both past queens.
And next up, Elizabeth Mackenzie Cummins, and she is the daughter of Mr. Harold Hackett Cummins Jr. and Mrs. Guy Duque Perrier, and she is a junior at Boston College, and she's majoring in biomedical engineering.
She was a captain of a powerful soccer team that won the state championship some years ago. Very fine athlete, very fine scholar.
All right. And next up, Althea Gilbert Kingsmill, and she is the daughter of Mr. Patrick Michael Kingsmill and Ms. Althea Gilbert Kingsmill. She's attending the University of Georgia. She's a junior. She's majoring in biomedical engineering, pre-med.
We have a number of biomedical engineers coming along here. She's also on the executive board of the Be Positive Foundation, the Dean's List student.
And moved actually originally from New Orleans, but moved to Mobile after Katrina and was in the Apollo Ball. And here is Miss Lindsay Andrews Page. She's the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. John Marshall Page III, and she is a junior at the University of Virginia. And she's majoring in political and social thought and also in French. And there's Comus connections there, too.
Indeed. Several members of past Comus Court. She's also been a powerful tennis player, co-captain of the varsity tennis team, won the Francis Soika Cup. And anyone who knows tennis in New Orleans knows how important that is.
Very, very big deal, yes. And coming soon, we have Julia Margaret Plauchet. She is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Gerard Anthony Plauchet, and she is a University of Mississippi junior. She's majoring in psychology with a minor in sociology, and she has many honors, but she was also in Squires, Apollo.
Her sister Claire Elizabeth Plauchet was in the Comus Court in 2014. She hopes to become a clinical psychologist, is a member of the Honor Society for Psychology Students, a provost scholar. We have some very bright members of this court.
We sure do. And finally, we have Olivia Knight Worley, and she is the daughter of Dr. Newland Knight Worley and Mrs. Rebecca Franson Worley, and she is a junior at Northwestern University majoring in theater and very interested in theater and plans to move to Chicago or New York to pursue a career in theater or the theater business.
I think we'll see a lot of Olivia. She's a very talented young woman. One of her family members, Cousin Nancy Worley, a member of past Pullman Court.
And we have the Court of Comus 2019. Now, we should point out we don't have the grand march in terms of the curtsying, but people are paying their homage to the organization and our monarchs in their own way. And as I said, note that the members are masked, so you see the maskers here.
This is a relaxed time. Monarchs on the throne, friends approaching, family approaching. You'll see lots of smiles.
Lots of smiles.
Especially on Comus.
Comus smiles reliably.
Okay, and you know, memories of being the Queen of Comus, of course, is very, very exciting and indelibly etched for some young ladies, and are even more special when they are shared. Here's my interview with this year's Queen of Comus, Lucy Sandoz Lanier.
I go to the College of Charleston in South Carolina. I'm majoring in arts management and minoring in art history. I hopefully someday want to work in an auction house and be able to travel and sell and trade art. So that's my passion. I'm in Tri Delta sorority, and our philanthropy is St. Jude, which is money to fund research for cancer and to help children who have cancer get chemotherapy, and no family ever has to pay a bill. When we were little, we'd always be at the stands on Jackson Avenue in St. Charles, and my dad rode in Chaos, so I remember waiting for his float every time, and he would bomb us. I'd be on my uncle's shoulders and my brother's shoulders, and I'd be up there and he'd give us bags and bags. When I was little, I didn't have a particular costume, but I was always wearing crowns. I definitely had a bunch of those, and my grandmother brought me to Toys R Us one time, and I got to dress up as a full princess, and it was the cutest outfit ever.
She loved dressing up. She always had a boa. She loved having crowns on her head.
One year I brought home a scepter and a crown from another organization that I was then going to use with the queen of that organization. I remember walking in the kitchen and she was wearing the crown and waving the scepter from that organization.
We talked her into coming home for spring break, and we presented her with the jewelry box that she had wanted for a long time. And she opened it up, and inside were lilies of the valley, which is the Comus flower, and pins from the organization, and her father told her, and she was thrilled.
I think it was my first night home. I walk into the dining room and my parents are sitting there, and I have this big present wrapped with lilies of the valley on top, and I'm like, oh my gosh, something's going on. And I open the present and it's that jewelry box, and I open that and it's got all of the Comus pins from every year that my parents have been involved. My dad just kind of looked at me and goes, you're gonna be Queen of Comus. And then he kind of sat me down and told me the history, and then he told me about the other balls that I was gonna be in. The first one being 12th night, which is the opening to Mardi Gras season, January 6th. It's the beginning of the fun. So then we had Mithras, and then Atlanteans, and then Momus, and finally Comus. My grandmother was Queen of Oberon, and my great-grandmother's Queen of Osiris, and I had several aunts who were past Queens of Mithras. My dress was designed by Suzanne Perrin St. Paul, and Comus's flower is the lily of the valley, and Comus's symbol is the plumes, so we wanted to incorporate both of those into the dress. So I have many lilies of the valley cascading at the top of the dress, and then cascading down I have plumes, and then I have lattice in between coming from the bottom of the dress. When I was little, my parents allowed me to stay up to watch the meeting of the courts, and they'd be at the ball, so I'd get in their bed, and I'd get to watch my dad on TV, and I got to look at the beautiful queens. And I'd always fall asleep probably before it ended because I was exhausted from the week. But before I knew it, I'd be awake in my own bed because I was so tired. My dad would just carry me half asleep in there, and I'd wake up to his boutonniere next to my bed. My dad's from New Orleans, and so he's involved in Comus, but my mom grew up in St. Louis, and so her family's involved in the Veiled Prophet, which is a ball that actually, the origin is from Comus itself. Most of my cousins were special maids in the Veiled Prophet, so it's really special and near and dear to our hearts.
One of my first dates with Charlie, he had to leave and go ride in the Comus parade that night, and I remember seeing him on the float. It was just always a wonderful time, and then just really magical sharing it with the kids and seeing it from their perspective, having not grown up here. It's a time that we're always here, and we've always loved Carnival.
We were surprised and very honored by the organization honoring Lucy and our family that way, and really looking forward to the night.
And of course, just as on the rec side, we have some wonderful objects to show you from the Comus side. And even though we should point out Comus no longer parades, it has a theme. And first of all, we will show you the invitation. Stephen?
Yes, indeed. The theme picked each year, Feathered Fantasies. And the beautiful invitation also die-cut lots of examples of birds and beautifully created art. Historically, Comus themes have been rich in mythology and literature and history. Certainly this is no exception. And a beautiful invitation there. The doubloon, not thrown from floats anymore, but still every year the Comus Cup on one side, the theme on the other, Feathered Fantasies, the theme for 2019.
And really quite a collector's item, too.
Yes, indeed. This is the King's Comus's pin, a reference to a pin he was given when he was a page in the Comus court.
So this is given to his family and friends?
Family and friends, These pins created by the monarchs are very personal, often with references to their past experiences, sometimes to their occupation or their interests and passions. That certainly has deep history, and this is the crew favor pin, evoking that theme of feathered fantasies.
And shaped like a C.
Yes, there it is. Yeah. I love Carnival art. It goes in so many different directions, and I think the jewelry of Carnival has certainly been taken to a new level over the past decades.
And just sort of a sweet little nod to something else, this is a purse that was made by a member, by Rochelle Swanson, who was a member of the crew of Nyx. Of course, they're known for their purses, but this is exquisite. It's about a foot long, okay? And just the way that she did a great job utilizing the logos of Comus and Rex, and of course with the crown in between. I just wanted to just show that. It was just really, really lovely. And one other thing, we talked earlier, about Perry Young. Here is one of the, only known images of Perry Young, or among the few?
Yeah, and this year he died in 1939, so it'd be the 80th year of his dying. But he's just an important historian. Here's a guy who was born in Abilene, Texas, and came to New Orleans to work on the port journal. but apparently fell into the right circles to the extent that the captain of Comus at the time commissioned him to do the book. Now, as it happened, during the progress of the book, the captain died, and the new management in Comus wasn't as interested in the book. Ultimately, it was able to come out, and then years later, his daughter did a second printing. But it's an important piece. It's an important piece.
That's
of
a must
history.
book. If you were a Carnival fan,
it's part of the
or historian.
Carnival must-read books from the early canon for sure.
Absolutely. And go ahead.
But this is also someone who wasn't like from the mainstream of New Orleans society culture. You know, a guy from Abilene came to New Orleans looking for work, and look what he was able to do. And look how he was able to catch the passion of Carnival.
Our book is worn out, our copy, that's for sure. We also wanted to show you some details because we know that the Queen's dresses are very, very special. This is the Queen of Comus's gown, and the Queen is wearing an opulent trumpeted silhouette of platinum Italian double silk satin layered with silver metallic netting designed by Suzanne St. Paul, and the necklace was defined by pearl crystal and beaded vines of course, Comus's logo, the Lily of the Valley. A heavily encrusted plume pattern applique sculpts the bodice and trails over the lattice pattern underlay and is accented with Swarovski crystals and iridescent bugle beads. I love bugle beads. An intricate, luminous plume border lace defines the sweeping train. And the ensemble is completed, of course, by the organization's traditional Medici collar, fur-trimmed mantle, crown and scepter, and the royal jewels, which depict the lilies of the valley. Oh, having that close up.
It's absolutely beautiful. And as we're looking at the King of Carnival, Robert Sandoz Beau, and the Comus Queen, Lucy Sandoz Lanier, one says, where does that come from? They must be close relatives, cousins here in New Orleans, perhaps? And as it turns out, these families likely are related, but it goes back to the St. Louis connection on Lucy's side and to the Pattison side for the Rex connection, and 3 Swiss brothers, last name Sandoz, who came several generations ago. 2 people connecting some time ago, recognizing that name in common, and tracing back and finding out that they both had that same story. 3 Swiss brothers named Sandoz. And I don't think they figured out exactly how it all connects, but somewhere there's a connection, and I was tickled to see the Veiled Prophets mentioned. Comus members went up to St. Louis and helped start that mystic society, and a lot of interconnected history here.
Absolutely. We love those little details. And now, though, it is time to thank those who made tonight's broadcast possible.
Funding for the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is made possible through generous community support. Streetcars rolling down the tracks and Iberia Bank both are part of today's New Orleans landscape. We believe in making our community better by giving back through charitable, educational, and cultural efforts that enhance our city, such as this broadcast on WYES. The Gustav Westfeldt Mcelhenney Family Foundation supports the renewal of New Orleans and the ongoing process of transforming our city's schools. Rex organization volunteers and the Pro Bono Publico Foundation are helping assure that every child in New Orleans can attend an excellent school. Brennan's Restaurant offers Chef Slade Rushing's modern interpretations of classic Creole cuisine served in Brennan's elegant dining rooms, Roost Bar, and Courtyard. Brennan's, over 70 years in the French Quarter. 417 Royal Street. Support is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of legal services to a wide range of local, regional, national, and international client base. Online at joneswalker.com. The Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is also sponsored by the Riley Foods Company and French Market Cold Brew Coffee, New Orleans' own soul-fueled coffee concentrate.
Well, I got introduced to Hancock Whitney, and they have helped us double in the size that we are by giving us the financial tools to make that growth happen.
The New Orleans Tourism Marketing Corporation wishes visitors and citizens a happy Mardi Gras from the city where visitors leave with a story, not just a souvenir. New Orleans visitor information is available at neworleans.com. Support comes from Emmett Dupas, Wealth Management Advisor at Northwestern Mutual, specializing in finding solutions to help companies and their employees reach their financial goals. Chaff McCall, proud to celebrate Carnival and honor the monarchs of Mardi Gras and the tradition of service before self. Also brought to you by Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. Any challenge, any risk, anywhere in the world. Home Care Solutions, compassionate in-home elder care to extend your loved one's independence. Poydras Home, independent living, assisted living, and nursing care in the heart of Uptown since 1817.
And we're back over, of course, at the Comus Ball. And Errol, you wanted to talk about what's to come.
Yeah, I want people to be aware of it. By the way, this is the time of the ball when I always urge people to get a moon pie and champagne for the ending. This is the way. We're coming all together, all of us now throughout the city. Let's hold hands, and we're coming to the end of the carnival season. And what's going to happen at some point is that the Comus captain is going to escort Rex and his entourage out, and it's going to wind up just being Comus and his lieutenants that are left here. And we're going to see what to me is, the closing of Carnival, which is the bringing down of the curtain on Carnival. And it's all going to be in the hands of the Comus captain. Now, Rex and his queen will leave with some fanfare. In the last few years, it's not automatic. It may or may not happen. But right as Rex has left, they've tended to do some sort of little gesture or something. So we'll see if that happens.
Evoking the personality, something special.
Yeah. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We'll just see. But this is, we're coming down to the closing of the carnival season.
Stephen, what was yours? I'm trying to remember.
I think I just put my hand over my heart.
Okay.
This is a lovely tradition and lovely honor and a very special day. I would say that I don't know exactly what Robert will do. Robert is a very careful, quiet, effective leader and just a wonderful gentleman. He's not given to grand gestures. On the other hand, he's a superb golfer.
Oh, okay.
He golfs regularly. He golfs here. He golfs in Scotland. He is a very accomplished golfer. We'll see if that is part of his leave taking. I'm particularly delighted that these two childhood friends have come together now as
our queens.
Our queens this evening.
I just want to acknowledge the Jimmy Maxwell Orchestra, which from all these years was playing on both sides. They played on the Rex side and on the Comus side. Of course, this year we had the symphony. But they still do it. They're still an accomplishment, and they've probably hold the world record, which will never be beaten in terms of playing If Ever I See So Loud.
And Robert, his son,
over and over and over again.
These days
I will promise you that after the meeting of the courts and going home for about 2 weeks, that just replays a loop in your brain.
Of course, that orchestra is the descendant from the René Luop Orchestra.
Yes.
And René Luop for many years was the ball band.
Yes, I think I see Robert back there.
Wonderful job, Lucy. This has been a beautiful evening. And the able pages. They did not fall asleep. They did not step on the train. They
did not.
In Comus.
And what is so interesting is that you would think, since it's his house, that he would be the host. But Comus is a god, and so he takes first leave.
Yeah. They're in Comus's house, but Comus leaves first.
And smiling in that great waxy mask from Paris.
So if anybody's keeping track of the protocol, a god takes precedence over a king.
Yes,
his final gesture with the Comus Cup. And I believe those would be kisses blown to the wife of Comus.
The wife to the missus. And what happens next for them?
have two monarchs still to leave the.
But after the ball,
oh, after
there
the
are
ball,
plans,
the
aren't there?
Queen's Supper, the two queens, the Queen of Comus, Queen of Carnival, will preside over a Queen's Supper that will be going on into the wee hours. There'll be lots of dancing, lots of celebrating, and getting ready for Ash Wednesday and giving it all up.
Farewell to the flesh.
These are, they've just done beautifully today, Britt and Robert. Britt has the broadest smile, and it's just lit up the day. And Robert, a little fist bump there.
Aww.
I don't think I've seen that before.
That may be a first. Talk about sparkly tonight, huh? The lighting.
Comus Captain is an enormously confident and reassuring presence to this. His Rex guests are in very good hands. That's Britt's father, who's helped her off the ballroom floor. He said earlier that was his main responsibility tonight, was to be there to accept her hand when she left the Comus ballroom.
So the departure of Rex is imminent.
Of the monarchs, Rex is the last to leave.
The final scepter. That's a lovely, lovely gesture. Robert is a man of deep faith, and that was an expression of that. He's been a devoted supporter and donor to many.
And here's the handshake.
Oh, handshake, two
handshake.
captains.
And here we come to the pinnacle of Carnival, Al, huh?
This is the closing.
Wonderful men. The transition in leadership at Rex last year, and this is the new captain's first year with his first parade and ball. I think he's done beautifully well.
Certainly has. I love this scene.
So here you go, the Comus captain, those lieutenants.
And the curtain will descend.
Another year. Closing of the curtain on Carnival 2019. A beautiful day. A little chilly, but gorgeous. MKC at the top there. All right. Beautifully done. And there you go with the logo, Mr. Crew of Comus since 1857.
And the next gesture of Carnival, though not quite as romantic as we heard the police talking about at midnight. The police formed this line, and they will start walking down Bourbon Street saying,
huh?
Carnival is over.
And now, though, here is our third and final Carnival quiz question.
And now our final question. Comus created a unique spelling of a word commonly used in Carnival. You can email your answers to carnivalquiz@wyes.org. Or you can mail in your entries to Carnival Quiz, WYES TV, 916 Navarre Avenue, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70124. The deadline for us to receive the entries is Monday, March 11th at 5 p.m. The entries must contain the correct answers to all three questions. One entry per person, please. Those entries will be put into a drawing, and winners will be announced on WYES's Steppin' Out program on Friday, March 15th at 7:30 and 11 p.m. The names of the winners and answers to the questions will be posted on WYES's website, wyes.org, the following Monday. We also welcome your comments about tonight's broadcast. Once again, email us at carnivalquiz@wyes.org. And good luck on our Carnival quiz.
And before we close the curtain, though, just a few final notes, including the fact that we'll be missing someone who's very dear to the Rex organization, and just a great guy, Mr. John Corbel.
John Corbel, this production, the meeting of the courts broadcast that is so popular, depends on so much work by so many people, but all of the video clips of parades and events and interviews and so on that have been accumulated over all these years. And John Corbel did most of that. He was Rex's videographer, and one of his missions was to accumulate all of that video into an archive. We've named that. It's in a special area at the Den. One of the last things he did before he passed was to organize all that year by year. So the John Corbel video archives are alive and well at the Rex Den, and whenever I'm up there trying to find that perfect video clip, I think of John. He's just a lovely man and dearly missed.
Very, very
And
sweet
early in his
gentleman.
career, he was a television broadcaster.
And news director.
And before that, as a young man, he actually tried out for the Chicago Cubs. He was in the Cubs organization, so he had a lot of experiences.
He did. And WYES TV is planning a fundraising event with an around-the-world theme, all to help us continue to bring you our local and network programs.
Save the date. Adventure awaits at the WYES Passport to the World Gala on Friday, April 12th at the home of Bob and Cheryl Merrick in New Orleans. Special thanks to the event co-chairs Bridget and Bobby Borries, Lauren and Ken Flower, Lisa and Carl Hofer, and honorary co-chairs Paulette and Frank Stewart. Tickets and sponsorships available at WYES.org.
It is almost time to say goodnight, and it's also almost time to pull up the canvas floor covering, thanks to the folks at Foster Custom Awning. Here is a time lapse of the canvas being folded and getting ready for the big night. It's about 5 hours, very much condensed. Look at this. And that's quite a wrap. And that canvas is recycled for art students around the city and various schools. But the work that it takes and that staff is truly amazing. And it takes a while to put it down, too.
Oh, indeed. And it's one of those iconic images of the Rex Ball and of the Carnival season. The other thing Foster Awning does, obviously, is create some Carnival flags, Rex flags that fly around the city, and installs those to make sure they fly proudly.
What I find so interesting also is that in putting down these floors, especially as we said, Proteus and Comus take place at the Marriott, and the Proteus Ball took place last night. So what happens is they put the Comus flooring down first, and then the Proteus on top of it, and then you remove it. That's a kind of a quick turnaround,
so
isn't
we'll
it?
add one more art form to Carnival, the creation of ballroom floors.
Yes, and as you said, as we talked about earlier, the creation of all these flags and putting them up, it must be 3 weeks before. Now, how about your flag? Does that go up 3 weeks before?
We're on the second floor of a building, so they're really creative. It flies off the balcony. There are 2 other past Rexes in the building, and they're up far higher, so they just claim ours. We find one for the whole
Gotcha.
building.
And just a reminder that a copy of tonight's broadcast will be available by calling 504-486-5511 or going online to WYES's online store, WYES.org. The price of the DVD is $29.95. And by the way, our broadcast will be repeated in its entirety immediately following the completion of this broadcast. And we started this broadcast in 1997, so we've been doing it for quite a few years, and we just thank everybody who makes it possible. And we also want to thank our own crew with the KREWE this evening. No, Jim Moriarty, our executive producer, Barbara Sillery, our producer, and our director, Will Morrow, Chief Engineer Fred Barrett, our associate producers Kelsey Schreiber, and of course Burke Bischoff, and our photographer Lenny Delbert Sr. and Jr. Video editors. I mean, they've done a wonderful job in shooting a lot of the great footage. Also Larry Russery has really helped us so much on this, and great production assistance by Sharon Egan Snowdy and Estelle DeVergis, and special thanks though to the School of Design, as well as the Mystic Crew of Comus, doing all that together and coming together. It's quiet because, of course, the Rex Ball is done, Comus is done, but you just think back at the season. It was a longer season than usual. And look, Nobody's around. They're about to transform it too. But this March Carnival, what do you think about the Lake Carnival?
You know, I prefer it because it gives us a little more time to get ready, but we've learned that weather can do whatever weather does, whether it's early or late. I think we were blessed today to have a sunny day on the cold and windy side, but at Rex we believe there's only one thing to worry about. We want dry. We don't care about hot or cold.
Now, looking ahead, Stephen, some really important news came forth this season, and that is that Royal Artists will be doing the parade next year. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, the theme has already been decided because you all plan way in advance for that.
Yes, indeed. We've worked on themes many years in advance. We will be working on designs already. That's in progress for next year's parade. This transition in artists with whom we'll be collaborating will be coordinated mostly with Henri Schindler, who is our artistic director. We've had many good years of collaboration with current artists. I think we put beautiful parades on the street. We look forward to many beautiful parades in the
And we certainly
coming years.
enjoyed tonight the music with the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra.
Oh, it was just
What a
lovely to hear
thrill.
those different tones. Several people came up and said, "What's different? It sounds just wonderful." This is it's a transitions and changes. Carnival grows and develops and innovates, and many of these things that seem new are actually kind of throwbacks. I think in the 19th century you would have heard music very much like that by very accomplished musicians. This city has grown music in all directions, classical and jazz and all. And this has been a nice addition, I think. To
Absolutely. And we just want to thank Errol
Thank
and
you.
Stephen. And thanks to WLPB for helping us share this broadcast with our viewers statewide. And thanks to all of you all for watching. And we now leave you with George Schmidt, the talented George Schmidt and the New Leviathan Oriental Foxtrot Orchestra with the Anthem of Carnival, If Ever I Cease to Love. Good night and happy Mardi Gras.
In a house, in a square, in a quadrant, in a street, in a lane, in a road. Turn to the left on the right hand, you there my true love's abode. I go there courting and crewing to my lover like a turtle dove, and swearing on my bended knees, if ever I cease to love, may sheep's heads grow on apple trees, if ever I cease to love, if ever I cease to love, if ever I cease to love, may the moon be turned to green leaves, if ever I cease to love. In a house, in a square, in a quadrant, in a street, in a lane, in a road. Turn to the left on the right hand, you there my true love's abode. I go there courting and crewing to my lover like a turtle dove, and swearing on my bended knees, if ever I cease to love, may sheep's heads grow on apple trees, if ever I cease to love, if ever I cease to love, if ever
Funding for the 2019 Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is made possible through generous community support. Streetcars rolling down the tracks and Iberia Bank both are part of today's New Orleans landscape. We believe in making our community better by giving back through charitable, educational, and cultural efforts that enhance our city, such as this broadcast on WYES. The Gustav Westfeldt Mcelhenney Family Foundation supports the renewal of New Orleans and the ongoing process of transforming our city's schools. Rex organization volunteers and the Pro Bono Publico Foundation are helping assure that every child in New Orleans can attend an excellent school. Brennan's Restaurant offers Chef Slade Rushing's modern interpretations of classic Creole cuisine served in Brennan's elegant dining rooms, roost bar, and courtyard. Brennan's, over 70 years in the French Quarter. 417 Royal Street. Fidelity Bank, as New Orleans as king cake, parades, beads, doubloons, and the families that get together to celebrate them all. Serving this community since 1908. Hail Rex, hail Comus, happy Mardi Gras. Support is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of legal services to a wide range of local, regional, national, and international client base. Online at joneswalker.com. The Rex Ball and the meeting of the courts of Rex and Comus is also sponsored by the Riley Foods Company and French Market Cold Brew Coffee, New Orleans' own soul-fueled coffee concentrate.
Well, I got introduced to Hancock Whitney, and they have helped us double in the size that we are by giving us the financial tools to make that growth happen.
The New Orleans Tourism Marketing Corporation wishes visitors and citizens a happy Mardi Gras from the city where visitors leave with a story, not just a souvenir. New Orleans visitor information is available at neworleans.com. Support comes from Emmett Dupas, Wealth Management Advisor at Northwestern Mutual, specializing in finding solutions to help companies and their employees reach their financial goals.
Adler's, honored to be part of New Orleans traditions since 1898.
Support comes from Baker Donaldson, lawyers and advisors proud to serve the business community and support local programming. Schaff McCall, proud to celebrate Carnival and honor the monarchs of Mardi Gras and the tradition of service before self. Also brought to you by Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management Services. Any challenge, any risk, anywhere in the world. Home Care Solutions, compassionate in-home elder care to extend your loved one's independence. Poydras Home, independent living, assisted living, and nursing care in the heart of Uptown since 1817. Additional support by Bellwether Technology. And by Richard Certified Public Accountants, richardcpas.com. Additional funding is provided by the law firm of Adams & Reese, Jonathan C. McCall, and J. Edgar Monroe Foundation.